All right, here we go. Today we have Curtis Wall Street Carroll, who became known for teaching stock investing in prison. Curtis is finally home after doing 27 years in prison. We did an interview back in 2019 while you were still locked up, but this is actually the first time we're here in person. So welcome home.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Glad to be home. Glad to be home, man.
Well, I want to get into your whole story again. Because like I said, we did something over the phone a while back, but this is actually something we're going to do in person. So this has a bigger impact. So I want to start in the very beginning. So you were born in Washington, D.C. And you eventually moved to East Oakland. How old were you at the time?
I was probably maybe 11, 10, 11, 12, so right in between here, I think, about that.
Okay, so we're talking about late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
This is kind of coming off the crack era in the Bay Area. And you grew up in fairly rough conditions. So tell me about, the family situation at the time.
So my family in DC, so my mother actually got hooked on drugs before California. And so already the crack epidemic that was in California was in all the major cities around the country. And we lived in DC. And we lived in Washington, but we didn't live in the bad area. We lived in Maryland. And my mother got hooked on drugs chasing after her husband. And so we moved to California, her running from her husband as a battered woman. That's why we came to California, because she had family here. Her mother was here, my grandmother, I had some uncles, some aunties, and some other family here. So when we arrived, it was like I remember it was a 5-day bus ride from DC to California. And it was kind of adventurous, but like we didn't have very much money. We didn't have any money. And I remember being on the bus asking people to I was soliciting money, hey, I'm the kid always running my mouth. I was doing that even back then. And, people was giving me food and giving me, and I essentially helped feed my family the entire trip down.
Wow. We
get down to California and my family, I think my grandmother was supposed to meet us and didn't. And I think we might have even lived in the shelter that first day that we arrived. I think my grandmother's boyfriend at the time, who we used to call my Uncle Bill, he picked us up, took us to my grandmother's house, and they lived in East Oakland. I didn't know the significance of anything about Oakland at the time, but we landed in deep East Oakland. My grandmother stayed on 90th, and I instantly got cool with cats who was on 92nd and Sunnyside, which is one of the premier, especially back then, premier, we don't really use the word gangs up north, you know what I mean? It ain't like kind of gangs, it's more turfs, right? But it's one of the more premier turfs at that time.
Yeah, I grew up in the Bay myself, and I lived in Oakland for a while.
Yeah,
so
Berkeley,
so I know a lot of friends in Oakland.
Right.
I actually lived in Oakland at one point.
Right.
Okay, so your mom is addicted to crack, and your grandmother was an addict as well.
So my mother was an addict, my grandma was an addict, my uncles were addicts, and so like all my immediate family member who I stayed with in California were addicts, minus maybe an auntie, a few people, but everyone else, for the most part, were addicts or selling drugs. So it was somewhere around in there. Man, we landed here and instantly, we got into the streets instant. I mean, it was instant. Like you meet people, hey, and I met a guy, ended up being my brother, man, and he was younger than I was, and he was from Sunnyside. So he was like, hey, I'm from Sunnyside, and he pretty much showed me the ropes. He was like, man, this is what we do, this is this. And his family was like my family. His mother was an addict. He was growing up in poverty, but he had been living in Oakland all his life. I was just coming to the town. So he was showing me how he had been growing up, what he had been doing, and that's how I got acclimated into this stuff instantly. Instantly started stealing. I mean, it was all fairly fast.
I mean, were you taking drugs yourself at all?
No, hell no. No. So I didn't start smoking weed and all that stuff, man, until I was I probably smoked it when I was maybe 13, but I wasn't like, I gotta go get some drugs. That wasn't the case. It was about money.
Okay.
We trying to get money. We ain't really trying to, smoking drugs was kind of seen as negative, especially if you smoked crack or you did heroin. That was seen as a bad thing. So you was seen as degenerate. if you did stuff like that. Everyone who was balling, riding clean cars, they was all selling drugs. None of them wasn't using.
Well, at the time, your family was on welfare, and your mom was working as a waitress at a bowling alley.
In Richmond.
In Richmond. Okay, yeah, I know what that is. And that wouldn't actually cover the bills, so she would actually have to sell her blood for $40.
Yeah. It was a blood bank. I forget where it was. And I remember we used to stand in that damn line. I hated it. And, you know, she'd stand in the line and, you know, you go in, she sit there we may be in the line an hour or so. She'd go in there and get the quick 40. And it just really, to me, was like, you standing in this line and people walking by who we cool with see you. Like, you ain't trying to be seen in the blood bank line, the bread line. And, you know, when you homeless and you growing up impoverished, you in all of the bread line, the food line, the soup kitchen. So you making your rounds around all of the places where people gonna tease you and talk about you, where essentially you gonna have to be defending yourself because someone gonna get out of line, talking smack. And then the bad thing about it was for us was that we lived in the neighborhood where my mother brought drugs. So now when she come over to the neighborhood and buy drugs from one of my partners or somebody I'm cool with, then I gotta deal with that crap. So it was always something, you know, that came around with, you know, my mom being directly in the neighborhood that we was in, buying drugs from people that we knew.
Right, and you talked about how she still has the needle marks from that time. Like,
she still, you know, I don't know if she got on a day, maybe they might have went up, but she still had the marks on her arm from the many times of going.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just going, trying to, and what $40 gonna do? You know what I mean? So it's like, I could see you going for $200-300, you talking $40, 4 kids plus you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And $40 plus you, and you got a drug habit.
The 4 kids, is it all the same father or different fathers?
No, we different.
Okay, were any of the fathers around?
Yeah. So and we don't rock with this step shit. We ain't into the step nothing. We family, and they've essentially been my family all my life. You know, my mother was married in the 80s, so my older siblings have the same family, and then me and my other siblings have different. And my older siblings' father is the father who was raised me and who I was around, who my mother got hooked on the drugs with. So yeah, he was around, but you know, he got wrapped up in the drug stuff like everybody else got wrapped up in that time.
Okay, so you're growing up in this horrible environment, and at the time you felt that robbing from white people was justified because white people are the reason why you guys were in this situation.
I felt robbing from anybody at the time was justified, but white folks was easy targets because you didn't see them that much. You know, so I mean, you know, like going through Oakland, unless you was by the Coliseum, places like that, it ain't like today. You wasn't just running across no white people running around jogging and all that type of stuff. That wasn't the case. So when you seen them and they seen you, it was already like, oh, so you already gonna be afraid, you know, but we didn't really go target white people. But if you was out and you seen someone that was a victim, then you was got, period.
Okay, and during this time, you were going to school, but you couldn't actually read or write.
I really wasn't going to school that much. Like, I was enrolled in school. You know what I mean? I was enrolled in school, and I went to school when I went, but school wasn't really, I cut school more than I went by far.
Okay.
By far.
I mean, were you realizing at the time, like, the other kids around you could read and write and you can't, and that's a problem?
Not that it's a problem until you tease me. So I didn't really care that I couldn't read and write until I needed to do it. Like, and if I couldn't read and write all my life, so I've always had a tactic or skill to move without it. So it didn't dawn on me that I couldn't do it until I needed it, or until you said, hey man, you stupid. And then I hit you in your mouth. Then I recognized, oh wow, it's a problem because I'm attacking people who are saying I'm dumb, I'm stupid. And so the word itself has more meaning than what I'm acting like it does. You know what I mean? So I'm pretending like, oh, well, you know, this reading thing ain't really that bad, but yet you call me stupid, that's an attack word. It's like calling me a bitch or a hoe. That's how I associated with the word.
Okay, so At what point did you actually start committing crimes?
Probably a couple months after I got here.
To Oakland?
Yeah, 12.
12
11.
years old. What were the first crimes?
We stole something off the store. Went in, he was like, hey man, all you gotta do is go in, I think it was an ice cream Snickers, I think it was. And it was the freezers. They got, when you walk in the store, they the ones that sit up front of the counter and you lift them this way. And he was like, oh man, you just walk in. He's like, all you do is walk in, put your hand in the freezer and just stick your hand in and put it up under your sleeve. And he was like, push the Snicker bar up. And I was like, oh, that's it? And that was the first thing I'd done. And it was a wrap after that.
Okay.
They started stealing everything.
Okay. And at one point you got involved in a gang.
I wouldn't call it a gang.
What would you call it?
I would call it hood.
Okay.
Because it wasn't really nobody. We don't classify them as gangs like that. As you know, being up there, right?
Yeah,
so we don't really look at
neighborhoods.
it. But the definition of a gang, you can say, hey, it's a gang because y'all out here doing crimes and shit. I mean, we could say that about the American government, right?
Right.
Everyone's a gang, right?
So you had a crew and everyone
yes.
would basically...
Well, I didn't have a crew. I was from a neighborhood that 92nd and Sunnyside was founded long before I came along, and I was from that neighborhood. And so I claimed that neighborhood, and I was allowed to claim that neighborhood because of where I grew up and the things that I was doing.
Okay. And, at the time, I heard you say that you didn't think that you lived past 18.
No.
So you felt you only had a few years left, so whatever.
I felt that any day, given all the stuff that I'm doing and the stuff that people are trying to do, it's just a matter of time. I mean, it's happening to my folks, everybody. So I just figured any given day here, it'll be what it be. I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do.
Okay, so at one point, your uncle started teaching you how to steal quarters from the arcade.
So my uncle didn't teach me. My uncle was the getaway driver who'd go along with me to help us get away after I go breaking in games to get the quarters. I learned about breaking in games from my mom's boyfriend's son. And he had a crew, him and another guy, who broke in video games. And when my mom worked at the bowling alley in Richmond, he came to the bowling alley and was like, hey man, I'm gonna show you something. And he went inside, took me there. He said, hey man, which game you like to play? And I was like, I like playing Street Fighter. He put the quarters in, and while I was playing, he went around, and I mean, it probably happened in maybe 10 minutes. And he came back out and he was like, come on, let's go. And I'm like, I'm still playing the game. Like, come on. And we walked outside and he opened the bag and it was full of quarters. I was like, whoa. And he was like, look, I'm gonna show you how you go in these arcade games and get these quarters out. And I turned that into a business. So I took it, went and got the crew, created a whole thing, and went around and started breaking in these games.
Right. But then this one time when you got a bunch of quarters, I think it was like 3,000 quarters,
I had a lot of quarters.
Security tried to chase you.
Yeah.
And you tried to run, but the quarters were so heavy that you got caught.
True story. That I was in, I want to say Vallejo, I forget. But I had got away, so I thought I got away. I got away and got outside. And while I was inside the building was a bowling alley. And when I came from behind the game, the guy saw me. So I knew the book bag would be heavy coming down the stairs. So I decided to wait, let him go by, and then run out. But what he did was he ran by and waited for me. And when I came by, he let me run down the street and he came behind me. And, I got the boat, man, in maybe a block. The weight just kind of came down. And so I turned, figuring shortcut was the gate. And I see the gate and I run and I jump up. And when I get to the top of the gate and go to flip over, the things just fell over like this and I fell backwards. Boom, and hit the ground. And he just came over top me and he looked.
Right, because all the quarters basically weighed you down.
Yeah, and I went to juvenile hall. That was probably the third or fourth time I went at that time, I think. Something like that.
Okay, you go to juvenile hall for how long this time?
I'm in there so I go to juvenile hall, they call my parents, come get him, they can't come get me. They got no money to get out to come get me. So I'm sitting. So I think I sat, I don't know, a couple weeks maybe, a week or two, something like that. So I'm in there like, shit, man, I'm eating every day. I want to go home, but I ain't in no rush. I mean, it's kind of like a camp in a way. That's how I saw it. You know what I mean? I didn't really understand jail from that perspective. I still kind of seen it like some kid stuff. And they came and got me. They came and picked me up. We left, and my uncle was like, "Hey man," went to the trunk. He said, "Man, we got no gas money to get home." He said, "Man, they got a Kragen's down the street." So the Kragen's was the auto place. I go in, I go steal. I went and stole a brake adjuster, a flathead screwdriver, a Phillip. Took me from there to the pizza place. I went in, broke in the game, got the quarters, got the money, and we went home. And I was probably like, I just got out of juvenile hall. We went from juvenile hall to the place, broke in the game, and we got the money and went home.
Right. So you're basically doing the same crime that put you in juvenile hall.
Yes.
Now, at one point, it kind of went up into home robberies.
Yes.
Okay. That's breaking into a Street Fighter game and taking some quarters is one thing. Going into someone's home, that's a whole different situation.
Yeah.
Because that person is home, they have the right to kill you.
Right.
So you're playing with your life at this point.
Right.
What made you do that, and what were those situations like?
Money. So one time the folks came, was like, "Man, we got this lick. This cat got some birds in the house, and he got some money in the house. You go in, get the dope, the money, y'all could keep." I'm like, for sure, no brainer. So I get the burner. I see anybody in the house, your ass is dead. That's my thinking. So I'm coming in to get money. I'm not coming to harm nobody, do nothing else. But if you jump out and anything happen, I'm gonna drop you where you stand and I'm gonna go on about my business. And that's my thinking. So I had no fear going in. Hey, they told us wasn't nobody there. So I ain't thinking they lying to us. You want me to go in and get this stuff? The intel gotta be right. I'm a kid though, so I'm just going in. And we went in one of these spots, man, and we go in and we were supposed to look in one of the bedrooms. But I remember walking through one of the hallways, coming inside the kitchen, and I just walked by and I opened up the cabinet and I saw Captain Crunch. And I remember so I walked back in the room, and this is how I know, like, when you still a kid doing adult stupid stuff. I go back in the room and I grab a pillowcase. And I go back inside and I start putting the boxes of cereal inside the pillowcase to take the cereal with me. I love cereal. I've been eating cereal all my life. And while I'm doing this, we running through the rooms and all that. And so he like, "Man, we got to get ready to go." So when we go to leave outside the window, the bag fall, that I got the cereal, and when I fall off the edge of the tub, coming out the window, my foot steps on the box. And I'm like, "Man, the bag falls." So when I go to look up, I'm like, "Oh shit." I'm thinking he lying to me and he dropped some money. There's money on the floor. So I'm like, "Oh, this fool then found some money here and he ain't told me." So I picked the money up, put it in my pocket. I come out the window. I come out there. I'm like, "Hey man, what's this?" "Dude, where you find it?" He like, "Man, I'm like, it's sitting right there." The money is in the cereal boxes. $25,000 in the cereal boxes.
Okay.
$25,000 in the cereal boxes.
So you just hit a lick.
Yeah.
What'd you do with the money?
We bought all kinds of foolishness. It was, and I took back part of what I posted, and this was the thing, like, loyalty was huge to me because it was how we was taught. Yeah, we was out robbing and doing what we did, but when it came to the folks, so I go back like, man, you know what I mean? You get your. So we didn't get the whole amount, but for what we had, man, and we did what we bought stuff, clothes, stupid stuff. A couple weeks, you're back to normal. You're back doing the same thing you do.
I mean, up to this point, you talked about bringing a gun, into this home robbery. Did you ever shoot your gun, get shot, anything else like that?
No. Well, yes, shooting guns, yeah, all that, and then yeah. So I was active playing with guns when I was probably about 13. Was when I probably really got like where I was like active with them, where I'd had one, had shot one, wasn't afraid of them no more. Would carry one. That's when I wouldn't. I didn't own one at that time, but I had access to people who did. And if we went to go, like the home and or anything we did, hey man, go to the folks, but I need some here. People wasn't like reluctant to do it when you the folks. So if you trying to go make a play, everybody know, man, you gotta go make this lick, bro, I need a burner. Ain't nobody like you 12 or you 13 or whatever. I was like, bro, cool. So that power taught me this is how you rock. If you're gonna get in this situation, because it was a couple situations I was in where I pulled that thing out and whoa. And when I saw them deer in the headlights, it changed everything.
Okay, but you ever pull the trigger up to this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I pulled the trigger a whole bunch of times. I had never shot nobody that I had knew that I had shot. But shooting at people and all that, yeah, I'd been doing all that.
Okay, so you were shooting, but from what you understand, no one ever got hit up to this point.
Not that I know. I didn't go back and go look in and go check in, but you out somewhere and something happens, and then y'all get in a shootout, or you in a situation where I was in a situation where some dudes that came to my brother had gotten into an altercation, and some dudes that came back to looking for my brother, and so he was in another apartment across the street from where we was at. And the guy's outside. Everybody's outside in the middle of the street. He got this gun, and I see him through the window. So I grab a trench coat, long trench coat, put it on my back. I grab an AR-15, throw it on my back, and I jump out the window. I'm in the middle of the street. So I'm walking across the street, he in the street, and I'm going to go tell my brother, dude, come home. This is my thinking. And while I'm walking across the street, got this gun on my back, he turns and he sees me, and he grabs me. I'm trying to walk. It's probably 40 people out here. And he's, man, where he at? And it's the hood. So ain't nobody really like, it's a dude in the street running. This ain't that. It's the streets. People got guns all the time. So ain't nobody running. People just kind of like, we don't know who the hell he's crazy ass talking about. And when he turns and sees me, he grabbed me by the coat, big old trench coat, and he got the gun right. He's like, man, where he at? He's like, man, you've been the one disrespecting me. And I'm like, dude, don't know who you at. So while I'm standing there, I see my partner come out, stick his head out the back gate, and I'm thinking he finna come out and do something. So I kind of like, man, look, I don't know what the fuck you talking about, but do what you got to do. Figuring I'm by some time. You finna come. And he popped back in. I'm like, oh, don't do nothing. And I just try to grab the gun from him. And when I try to grab it, the trench coat was long, and I slipped on the back of the coat, and I fall to the ground. And I'm on the ground like this, holding the gun, and he's yanking. Let the gun go, and he's kicking, and he kicks me, and I can't hold no more, and I let the barrel go. So immediately I'm thinking he finna start shooting. So I turn around, I got to reach behind my back, and when I go to turn to pull the gun around, he come in to swing with the barrel like this. And he see me, and he go, and he break, and when I jump up off the ground, my ankle is twisted. And I'm limping, and I cock back, and I turn a corner, and it was like the Red Sea part. He was running, and people were like this, and I got to shooting. Boom, 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 boom. And I went. And he ran to the back gate, and I'm in the middle of the street. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. And people standing around scattering. And I'd been about, 15, something like that, I think. And so, like, events like that, situations like that had occurred. Where it would be another situation where we are actively be involved with something where somebody be doing something, you got to go take care of some business, or be vice versa, or something that we doing. So situations like that was where I was involved in playing with different type of situations with weapons.
Okay. Well, you're involved in these various crimes, robberies, shootings, but then at age 17 in 1996, you get into a situation where everything changes. So tell me what led up to this situation.
It was just a normal day. We was out hanging out with my partners, and we was on our way. We was thinking about going to the club that night, and I was stressed out. It was just a typical me being stressed out, being a teenager, not having nothing, being homeless, right? And we were supposed to go out, and a suggestion popped up, and we could hit a lick right quick. It was just really, really random. We was in the house, and we was in the apartment, and was like, bro, we're just gonna go out here. First person we see, we just gonna get him. It's just get him and we gonna go. And it was just that. Went out, they walked in, and it wasn't even targeted. It could have been women. I wouldn't have known it was women, but when we turned the corner, I wasn't finna be like, you a woman, you ain't doing it, get your ass on the floor. That was the thinking. So when they came around and we seen them, we jumped out, grabbed them. They ran off about their business. One of the folks trailed behind, ended up shooting them. The guy ended up dying. Months later, they wanted me to tell state's evidence of what happened.
Okay, so you and your friends decided to rob a random couple of people.
We could be one person.
One person.
We just gonna do a robbery.
Did they resist?
No.
You try to rob them?
No, man.
So why shoot them?
I don't know. I didn't shoot him.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't shoot him. No,
So
I was charged as the shooter, and because I wouldn't tell who was the shooter and what happened, I was charged and convicted as that.
how many people were involved?
4.
4 of you guys. Was there one shooter?
Yes.
And of course, you know him.
Yes. We all knew him, and they knew him too. But if
They meaning the victims?
meaning the courts knew.
The courts, okay.
The evidence pointed to it. They just didn't go seek it because we wouldn't say what happened.
Okay, but to be fair, if you're involved in a crime and someone dies during that crime, everyone involved gets charged for that murder.
According to the law.
According to the law. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying this is how it works in the court system. So it's not like you could say, this is totally unfair. I didn't do anything. I'm not the shooter. No, you decided to involve yourself in this. And because someone died, you are now tied into this. This happens all the time.
Yeah. The problem is that I'm fine with you making the case and the charging. My problem is you ain't doing the investigation that you're saying. You lying about the shit. So if you really gonna say we did it, then show we did it. I'll take my ass to prison and do what it do. You making up stuff to point to the fact that we did it because I won't cooperate with you.
Okay, so did you guys even get anything for the robbery?
No.
Nothing.
No.
So you do this attempted robbery, your friend ends up killing somebody and then shooting another guy, right? Because there's only one shooter the whole time. Do you realize that one of the guys is dead?
No. We talking about at the time?
At the time?
No. I don't care.
You don't care?
I don't care for what? Man, look, my thing was this. I can give a damn about what everybody else got going on. If you not my folks, it's not my problem. People robbing people every day. In a minute, my ass gonna be on the chopping block. It's bound to happen. We in the hood. So my thing is, I'm doing stuff, y'all doing stuff. I can't be complaining when my turn hit. And I'm doing the stuff I'm doing. So I was like, you didn't have to smack him, but I don't give a fuck.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with me. And that was just the thinking of being a naive person when you growing up in poverty. You know, like I was growing up and around like a lot of the people.
Well, how long after the shooting do you find out that one of the victims died?
Probably about, that's a good question. Maybe over a month later, had to be.
When you find out that you were involved in a crime where a person died, what started to go through your head?
Same thing that always go through my head.
Which is?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Hell no.
Didn't
I don't know him. He don't know me. I don't know anything about them people. So I ain't like, damn, man, like, so you know how people be like, man, somebody died and like, I was a part of that. People die all the time. I got partners who we cool with. We out here, they dying, laying in the street, like, you know what I mean? So you not looking at it like this happened. You like, it ain't happened to me. And that's how I thought about it. And I didn't really identify with it in that perspective because I didn't really see myself as playing a role in that. Now, to your point, had I knew personally that I had did it, I might have been like, damn, it was messed up. Maybe I might have been that way. I don't know. But that was not my thinking.
Right. It wasn't your thinking, but the police had a different thinking.
Well, they got the thinking that they always got. We don't care what happened. We just want somebody in jail for it.
Okay.
Right?
So at one point, there was a warrant for your arrest.
Yes.
And you decided to turn yourself in.
Yeah, that was a hard pill to swallow, man. turning myself in. But that was against everything that I've been taught. And fuck the police. Would you go down and go turn yourself in for? But the other narrative was, naive part. You didn't do this part, so you only gonna be responsible for this. This is the thinking was.
Right, but you knew that someone died.
Yeah, I knew some hell, yeah. But by this time I already knew somebody died.
All right, so what, the police were looking for you in your neighborhood and
No,
so
the
forth?
police captured one of the people who was involved in the crime. The four of us. One of us got caught. And the one of us got caught start telling, hey man, they did it. And when he said they did it, the police came out to come grab the rest of us, got the other two, and I was last. So when they got locked up, they said, hey man, he's snitching. So when they told me he was snitching, I went to go find him to kill his ass. I was still in the street at the time. But when I went to go find him, they was like, hey man, they found out who it was. I'm like, whoa, how you gonna be saying this? Oh, you lying. So now all gloves is off.
Okay, the person who's snitching, was he the shooter?
I ain't gonna say he was or he wasn't.
Okay. But everyone's locked up. Are you saying that, I mean, no one could really afford bail or anything?
No, hell no.
So when you were trying to kill the guy who snitched on you, is he even on the street?
Yeah. They telling me, they like, bruh, snitching.
And they let him out?
Yeah, because he was snitching. That's what I was saying. I'm like, he can't be snitching, he out. They like, nah, man, he telling. How you know that? The lawyers told us. So when the lawyers told them the name, see, this the thing in the street. You don't know nobody by no real name. So nicknames. I don't know the dude's real name. So when they telling me what his real name is, I'm like, who the hell is that? I just know him as the nickname. So when they tell me the nickname is the guy, I'm like, oh, that can't be true. That's the folks. So I go to confront him about this stuff. But my thing is, if I find out that what they say is true, we got nothing to talk about.
So do you confront him?
Yeah, I confront him about it.
What happened?
And he tells me that it ain't him. He like, it ain't me. If it was me, they had me locked up. That's what his spiel was to me.
Was it him?
It was him. I don't know this at the time.
Right.
Yeah, because his spiel is, I'm gonna be locked up. And I'm thinking, that's true. I don't know nothing about the system. I don't know that you turn state's evidence. I don't know anything about that. So all I know is that if he say it's me, then that means I have and he was convincing. He was like, man, bro, it can't be. He said, look, man, we can even go to the people that saying it's me. Now, this is my partner, though. It ain't like he's some stranger to me. So harming him was hard for me. So I needed him to tell me that he did it. That way I could do it and wouldn't feel bad about it. Because then this what you got coming. And he didn't say that. He said it wasn't him. And we went about our business and it was him. And next thing I know, I couldn't find him after that.
Okay, and then you decided to turn yourself in.
I decided to turn myself in.
I mean, did you think, let me just go on the run?
Hell yeah, I was on the run.
Back to D.C.?
Man, no, I wasn't thinking of go back to D.C. I was just on the run. I was homeless, so I was just jumping from place to place. And people started being like, man, the police looking for you, blah, 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 blah. And so, I was like, and then my uncle had some knowledge of the system. He had been in jail he had done 10 years or so in the system. And he was like, man, look, it's hard. He said, but you only played this role. And this is what you say. And this is what, I don't know, man. I just didn't know what else to do.
Right. You had no lawyer or anything else like that?
And no lawyers, no folks, the homies was like, don't go. But don't go, you stupid if you go. So he take me down there. Go down there, downtown Oakland, turn myself in. They say, hey, bring him down here next week. I'm like, whoa. I leave. I go to turn myself in for this murder. They tell him, bring him down here next Monday. Yeah, true story. I go back and they like, don't go back down there. Don't go back down there. You go back down there, you ain't never gonna come home. This was the folks told me. And I said, nah, man, look, they let me go. Like they didn't even take me now. I went back down there and it was a wrap.
Right, so now you get charged with the murder, along with 3 other co-defendants.
I'm charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, first-degree robbery, attempted robbery, possession of firearm, charged a bunch of stuff.
Now, they ask you to cooperate.
Yes.
And you could name the shooter.
Yes.
But you don't.
I don't name nobody. I don't even say what happened. I sit there quiet.
So no lawyer, nothing.
No, I call home. No, the folks can't. One of the folks was in there when we got there. And he said, listen, this what you do. Don't say nothing. I don't care what they do. So I didn't say nothing. They said, man, if you don't speak, we can't help you. I said, man, I got nothing to say.
Okay.
I never said not one word.
But you're being charged with heinous crimes.
Yes.
Is there a trial or do you plead out?
No, ain't no plea. So they taking us to trial. Then they come back with these plea deals. It get wind that the folks done told, his people find out he done told. So they like, look, man, he ain't finna come down here, so he come to testify at our preliminary hearing. When he come do that, they like, nah, he ain't coming down to trial. So when that happened, they offer us a deal.
What was the deal?
The deal was for me to take 25 years and for my co-defendants to take 11.
Okay, but you're not the shooter.
Right.
At that point, did you say to yourself, let me just tell them who the shooter is? And my co-defendants might corroborate my story because that's what happened.
Hell no, I wasn't saying that.
Why is that?
If they say, hey, Street, back then it was Curdy White, the folks over here, man, and they snitching and this is what we got to go do, I'm going to go do that. So if they say, hey, man, Street told, and they tell them just what they got to do, I'm doing the stuff that they telling me to do, which what's going to happen to me, because I'm doing it. So snitching, hell no. I know the kind of stuff that we would have to go do if you told us to go do this because somebody told. That's what's going to happen to me if I say something. Hell no. I got nothing to say.
So you felt at the time that if you told, they would kill you?
Ain't no day. That's what they gonna do.
That's what they're gonna do.
That's what they gonna do. You a snitch. Ain't no you snitching. It's simple. And you know you do it because we've sent you to do stuff to people who've told. So you know this is the case. So if you tell anything and I told you, don't say nothing. So it's clear here. Don't
right,
speak.
but one of the guys is naming you as the shooter.
Yes.
Were the other two naming you as the shooter as well?
No.
So their story is different.
Their story is like my story.
Which is, we
ain't
didn't
got
see
nothing to say. But they are telling what happened from their perspective.
But they're not naming the shooter.
No.
Okay. And you're not going to tell me whether the snitch is the shooter, so we don't really know who the shooter is. And I guess the court system doesn't know either, technically.
No. The courts don't know who the shooter is, which is why they're giving it to me. They don't know who it is, so they say, we're going to give it to him. He won't say nothing, so we'll say he did it. He won't say he ain't. Let's take it to trial. If he don't go say he won't defend himself, we'll place as he did it.
Okay, so you go to trial and you have a public defender, I assume?
I got a public defender.
Okay.
One of the longest serving public defenders at that time. His name was Spencer Storellis, rest in peace, was my lawyer.
Was he trying to get you to cooperate and say, look, like, they're going to really mess you up if you blow trial?
He was and he wasn't. His thing was, if you cooperate, they're going to let you go, but you're going to have to deal with your buddies. He was clear about that. But I'll get you home. If you don't cooperate and you go to trial and you lose, you're going to get all this time. Now, I didn't understand the magnitude of the time. I just didn't get life. I just didn't understand that. So my perspective was we could win because he was like, they don't got no evidence. They just got this dude saying this and he ain't been to come to trial. Remember, he ain't coming to trial. He done came to play, but he not coming to the trial now. Our folks done told us he ain't coming. He ain't coming.
And he never came?
He never came.
And how many years did he get?
Nothing.
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 And this might be the shooter?
Yes. He got nothing. And then I went, got found guilty. I didn't speak one word at the trial. My co-defendants didn't speak one word at the trial. And they found us guilty of all charges, and they sentenced me, to 54 years to life.
How does are you 17 or 18 at the time?
I'm 17.
How does a 17-year-old get his head around 54 to life?
You don't. I didn't understand that until probably 5 or 6 years into my sentence. Maybe a little longer than that. When I fully understood that I had life in prison, I wasn't gonna get out.
You're 45 years old right now. If the 45-year-old Curtis could go talk to the 17-year-old Curtis, would he tell him, cooperate, let them know who the real shooter is, you might get a couple of years, you could go move somewhere to a different area and live out the rest of your life? Would you say that to the 17-year-old Curtis?
No.
No.
I tell him, you in the rough, you got a rough ride coming, buddy.
So to this day, you stand by your decision of not cooperating and letting someone who may have been the actual shooter snitch on you and give you half a decade to life.
No, I don't stand by protecting the person that did it. I stand by protecting myself. Because at the end of the day, it's this. There's a price to pay for the crimes you do. Whether the price to pay is someone do it to you or something happens based on something you did to someone else you care about. So at the end of the day, we are here committing crimes, some minor, some not. And then so I get caught. I didn't do this particular crime as far as the murder, but I've done all kinds of shit, all kinds of stuff. So here I'm coming along now saying, hey, please don't do me. Like I didn't do this, which is true. But dude, you've been out here running and ripping and ramping, and now you're gonna sit here talking about, oh, you're gonna be telling on this person. You've been out here doing what you've been doing. So my thinking was like, you have no legs to stand on here, bruh. Like, true, I want out this shit. And if telling on you motherfuckers was the way out, where I could have did that and lived with myself, I'd have snitched on the whole fucking crew instantly. But the problem is, I can't live with myself, and neither can they. They'd never let me live making such a play like that, and neither would I allow myself to live with making such a play like that, because I would compromise my position to do anything because I'd be labeled a snitch. And not only will I be labeled a snitch on the streets, where I'm gonna go. The minute I snitch and they drop the charges and they take me back to the bullpen to go dress out, to get outside, ain't nobody picking me up right outside that door. That's downtown Oakland. Right there in the middle of the hood, right there where the neighborhood at, with people right in the courtroom listening to your dumbass tale. So the minute I come home, my auntie, all my people who I know that's here, everybody know where these people stay. So where you gonna go? What you gonna do? How you gonna rationalize the fact that you've been running around here for all these many years, committing all these crimes and doing this stupid shit, and now you crying and you snitch? So it just was, I don't have any options here. You stuck, dude. And prison was the route, man. I hated it, but I hated it. I hated it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're only 17. You're still a teenager. You're still a minor. It's not like you're 35 with $1 million in the bank and you can go live in another country and just put this whole life behind you and so forth. I understand.
And you're doing what you're told.
It's a tough place to be.
You're doing what you're told, right? As a kid, you done been kids, you're doing what you're told.
Yeah.
So you ain't, it ain't like you got your own mind here.
Right.
Like you
your
only got your own.
telling you don't cooperate.
Yeah. The homies is telling you don't cooperate.
Don't cooperate.
What you gonna do? These my family members. I'm not gonna go against my pope. I'm gonna go against my folks.
Right. Now, you were still a minor. Why wouldn't you be charged as a minor? Because you were charged as an adult, right?
And this is where the shenanigans, I say, come up in that, right? Like, so this is where they decided that he's a menace. He black. He growing up in poverty. His mother's a drug addict. He got nobody supporting him. Nobody's coming to the courtroom. No one's looking out. So he is what they say he is. And we're gonna give him, like we give all the blacks who fit this criteria of a menace to society. So when I talk about like them throwing the book, wasn't about the crime we committed. Though the crime, you gotta pay for that. But all the economic conditions that you would do to a kid, right? You didn't even see if I could read or write. So how would you give me 54 years to life in prison and I can't even read the goddamn paperwork that say 54 years of life on it? So like, you didn't even go to check and say, well, he did this crime happen, but who is the kid?
Yeah.
Like what's do we need to get him in juvenile facility and get him some help? They never considered it. I don't care what kind of paperwork they show. They thing was he this happened and he gonna go up straight, and that's what they did.
Okay, so you've done juvenile before, but now you go to actual state prison.
Yeah.
Which is different.
Way different.
Way different.
Wasn't even close.
What do you think was the worst part in the beginning when you first get there?
How fast and active it was. How you had to get involved quickly. You had to, minute we got there, it was, here go the knives, it was quick, and it wasn't like how you doing, this is this, it was more of a, man, this your folks, hey man, this what's going on. This what the Mexicans over here, this what we on, this the war, this the yard, this what you do. So it wasn't no time to like process. So any processing that you did, you processed by yourself, or hopefully you try to find someone your age. Like when I went in, it was only another dude on the yard that was my age. Everybody else was 25, 30, 40, had already been down. We was only young cats on the yard, 19, 20 years old. So people saw us as threats and saw us as targets.
Yeah.
Targets like they're young. It wasn't like raping, like hold you down. That wasn't what it was. It was rape like the psychological games that they play that I thought was in the movies. I didn't know that people get raped by mind games in prison. And you got these dudes following behind them. It blew me away. And I decided that wasn't gonna happen to me. And because I took that stance, I got punished for it. I got beat up. All kind of things happened in them early times when I first got to the pen and got going in when I first got there because of certain stance that I was taking on things that I saw.
Yeah, look, I've interviewed a lot of guys that did a lot of prison time, and I've always just heard horror stories about older dudes gang raping young dudes.
Yeah.
I had Terrence Gangster Williams. He was locked up for, I don't know, like 27 years, I think, and he would describe the process where, like, they'd like play around with you. They like punch you in the stomach just to see how you would react. And if you wouldn't fight back, they're like, okay, we're gonna take this guy's butt.
Yeah.
Or older dudes would be trying to convince dudes, like younger dudes, like, hey man, your hand can't be gay. And just really weird.
That stuff be true.
Yeah, but
Be true.
You're living in a society of all men. They have their sexual needs, and there's no women to really work this out with. So if you're a lifer, a lot of guys, I'm sure, like, well, this is all I got to work with, so I'm going to work with this.
I mean, that and you may be gay. And so if you gay, then that's your thing, right? So then you got that, and then you have people doing it for punishment purposes, right? So rape is also a tactic for punishment. Like gang raping you ain't just like because it's fun. Dude, you was a piece of crap. So this is a statement, right? Now, stuff like that is different. If you talk to blacks who've been in prison, whites who've been in prison, Hispanics who've been in prison, the stories were very different because of the culture and how we think of it when it comes to certain things. The way whites see rape and blacks see rape and Mexicans is different in the pen. And it operates from a different perspective because of what they do. This group of people may use it for a reason of punishment versus this group of people do it because cats be on some gay stuff, right? Which is teachers they on. And this group of people over here, naturally, this is, So it varies depending on who you ask. My stories around that situation is very different because blacks don't come from a more heinous perspective. It's more from this idea of mentality, the mental, right? Now, I might have been that way in the 80s. I wasn't in the pen in the 80s and the 70s when it was rocking like that. When I got to the pen, I was kind of the last coming in before it changed to all the stuff is today when I went in.
Okay, up to this point, had you been with women?
Yes, hell yeah.
Right. But you never went to prom, you never went on dates.
I had never been with no woman like all your clothes off and that type of shit. I had never done that. It just been like, pants down the ankles and you out your way. It was all that type of stuff.
So you're making your way with your new life in prison and you have a 2 life on your record, meaning that you may never get out.
Right.
There's people that get 3 to life and end up doing life.
Right. I wasn't getting out. With my sentence, I wasn't getting out.
You weren't getting out.
That, not in the state of California, I wasn't getting out.
Now, at one point, you decide to do some money schemes, because money is as important, actually more important in prison than it is on the outside, because you have much more limited resources.
Yes, goes further.
What type of schemes were you doing initially?
Initially, I was just selling like tobacco. Like I'll do like canteen stuff. Like we go to canteen, someone will run out of canteen, and I was running like a little store. And I was doing stuff like that. And then I went from doing that to like wanting to be involved in the dope, because the way the dope game was, it was small amounts, but the money was big. But you had to have a way to move the product on the street. So if someone gave you the dope and they gave you the money, how would you get the money until you fixed? I didn't have the outside plug. So I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the girlfriends, the wife. I went in by myself with nothing. So when I got involved, everything was canteen and packages. You know, it was, I have a bunch of canteen in the cell. And then I jumped into the smuggling business, where the folks wanted me. So because I looked at younger and, you know, they used to always say, you talk hella quick, mouthpiece. They wanted me to get cool with the staff who worked at a certain part of the institution where I could understand what was happening so we could smuggle stuff. So in doing that, I discovered things that I wanted to do myself with the business. So I got cool and I started transporting. So basically what I would do is I'd go to the buildings and people would be like, hey man, I got a cell phone. I got an ounce. I got this and I need this to go to sell such and such. So I'd go get it, take it. So I was like, I take it, $50, transit from here to here. You want 5 hats? Shoot them. So now you're gonna get me to take this phone from here to across the hall. You're gonna pay me 5 caps of weed? That's $50. So I started doing that. And before you know it, about a year, I was probably moving about $2,000 to $3,000, well, probably about $3,000 to $5,000 worth of products a day.
And was it
goods and stuff.
And was it a mentality of, well, I got life, so who cares? If I get caught, I'm still here. So
that was the original mentality. This mentality was more about business. Like I had really forgot about I'm doing life in prison. Like you here. So my goal was, what are you gonna do while you here and get this thing going? So like I just never really started thinking about, cause I wasn't thinking about getting out no more. The business was, I was involved in prison politics. And when you were involved in prison politics, I had never been nobody. I had never, and people was like, what's up, Curdy Bo? You know what I mean? People knew who I was. I wasn't even doing stocks. I was just doing that shit. And I started transitioning over to the stocks.
Okay, so you come in at 17, illiterate. But by 20 years old, you teach yourself how to read and write.
I started teaching myself.
Yeah.
I started teaching myself.
And eventually you did learn how to read and write. And you said that the more educated you got, the less excuses you could make for yourself.
Right.
So you start realizing that you're here because of your own actions, not because of you being a victim or because of white people or because of whatever.
I didn't go that far. At that time, I looked at it like, your situation in prison, as far as your economic situation, is your fault. And ain't nobody gonna send you no money in your books. Ain't nobody finna support you. You got to do that yourself because you're here. And my thinking was, if you're gonna be involved in prison politics, how you gonna be involved in prison politics and you don't make no money? And you don't take over? And for me, it was just about going along to get along. And that's what I did until I got punished for that. And that's when I decided to take control and move fully fledged towards stocks. See, at that time, I was still heavily into politics. I was trading. I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out sort of thing. You know what I mean? And so, I was minorly talking to the guards and I got caught. I got caught talking to the guards. My folks and them caught me. They caught me and they tried to blackmail me and tried to take half the business and was like, we're gonna tell that you talk to the police. We're gonna tell the folks. And that's when I thought, I threatened them. Threatened both of them right on the spot. I stabbed both of you fools. You call me a snitch? If I let you call me a snitch, and I don't say nothing, you go tell people, we got a problem. I threat both of them right there on the spot. I stab both you fools. Go get your knife. I walk off.
Had you stabbed anybody at that point?
Yes.
Okay. Had you been stabbed yourself?
No.
Okay.
And I walked off. They left, told the folks, hey man, he threatened us. But this what he did. He threatened us because we caught him talking to the police. He was snitching. So he threatened us, talking about he was trying to blackmail us, and they kicked this whole thing. So I got summoned to the meeting. I know they walk you over there. So I know 2 dudes standing at the front door, right? The 2 dudes at the door. I see the play and I'm thinking, what did I do? Well, old time walk, I'm trying to think, okay, what had I done? I can't figure out what I done for the summon. I get over there, folks, he like, man, sit down. And he had a knife on the bed. Crazy, it was crazy. And he was like, I'm gonna ask you some questions. And he was real calm about it. And he says, man, just be honest. He said, and what you say will determine your stay here. He said, and take your time. You got all day to answer. He said, what have you been talking to the police about? He crossed his legs, grabbed his coffee, looked up at the TV. And I sat there and thought. He looked at me and said, take your time. And I probably sat there for maybe 10 minutes. And I'm thinking, and I said, I've been talking to him about stocks. And he said, what's that? And I said, I went on, it's this. And he goes, what does that got to do with what we've been doing? And I said, I'm not understanding. I said, y'all wanted me to go out here and make this play, and I made the play, and now I'm trying to do the stocks thing, and it's a problem. What's the difference between what I'm doing and what we've been doing? I'm getting them the people to smuggle the shit. If we could do the stocks, we could make 10 times as money. It don't make no sense to me. It seemed like to me like y'all just mad that it wasn't your idea. And he looked at me and he said, your problem is you run your mouth too much and you think you're running something. And but to show you, you ain't running nothing but your mouth. And they took me back there and whooped my ass for that shit. And took the business from me.
Okay.
And I ended up going to the hole and I'm getting transferred from that institution. That was a whole nother thing, but.
Okay. So you start to look into stocks.
After that,
yeah,
that's when I started to really
focus on it. Yeah, and now you know how to read and write.
Yes.
So now you could actually research and you could actually read about Warren Buffett and people like that.
Yes.
And initially you started with penny stocks.
Yes, initially.
And I guess you would come up with the money by you bought postage stamps. Like unused postage stamps from other prisoners?
I was doing that in the beginning, yes. I was doing that in the beginning. Yeah. I forgot about that. I was doing that in the beginning, yeah.
And then you would have your people on the outside open brokerage accounts and you would tell them what to invest in.
Yes. I traded tobacco for the stamps. So we were still able to smoke tobacco in prison at that time. They hadn't banned it yet. And when people would run out of the tobacco, I had a line where I would buy the cans, get the cans, and sell them the pouches for $2 of stamps per pouch. And they give me the brand new stamps, and I had hundreds of books. I send the books home, they take the books to the post office, turn them into money, and go open the broker's account.
Oh, because you could sell stamps back to the post office.
My people take the stamps back to the post office, and they sell them. And so when I found out that, when I tell, hey man, you want to get the tobacco? Tell your girl to send you stamps in because everybody got their people sending them stamps. So I tell them all, send all the stamps inside. That way you don't got to give me the money off the canteen. So they come to me, hey man, I got 10 books. I got this many books. And I take the books, how many I go get the tobacco, give it to them, send the books home, and that's how I got my initial startup money.
Yeah, man, prison ingenuity. Figure out how to flip stamps. I never even knew you could sell stamps back to the post office.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, that's how I got my initial business, my initial start.
Okay, so you're taking the stamp money and you're investing in penny stocks. Mm-hmm. But penny stocks is like the riskiest thing you could do in the stock market. A lot of these companies, they're not even real.
Yes.
The numbers can't be verified. Yes. They're not on major stock exchanges.
Right.
You don't even know if the company even exists.
Right.
And it can be very easily manipulated and so forth. because no one's really watching this stuff.
Right.
And I guess after the dot-com bubble burst, that's when you said, okay, I'm done with the penny stocks.
Yes, because I learned a different strategy, the trading. So to your point, everything you said about penny stocks was true, but what I didn't understand at that time was that I was buying companies that were penny stocks, but the companies were stocks that was trading penny status. So they shouldn't have been companies that low, and I didn't know that. So I was picking these penny stocks, and the stock price was going up, and I'm like, oh, like I'm picking some good companies here. Well, I am, but I'm picking companies' stock prices that's gonna go up anyway. I just don't know this at the time. So when the dot-com bubble burst and the prices was down, I started seeing all the high-flying e-commerce stocks down at these prices, and I'm like, wow, the prices are down, but the companies had revenue, the companies had this, and I started to change up my strategy a little bit, and I started to buy stocks that was trading at penny status instead of penny stocks. And I developed a whole new strategy for investments, and that was what I started using with the guards. That's how I really catapulted. When I rotated that strategy, because that's the only strategy I had at the time, was penny stocks. And to your point, I was like, man, if he put 50 G's in this damn thing and it go down, like I got no leg to stand on here. Like I knew that part, and I knew if the money was lost, I couldn't get nobody else to do shit. It's on my only stock. So that strategy, I think one of the companies I used it on was Rite Aid, Sirius XM Radio. I got Rite Aid, I think, at 71 cents. I think I got Sirius at like 64 cents or 60 something cent at the time. And they had jumped up crazy. I was trading American Apparel. American Apparel was like 80 something cent. I was running them to like 80 something cent up to $1. So I was in, and I hadn't even grabbed. So by the time the financial crisis had hit, and I saw Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, Citigroup, and all them down, they were no longer penny stocks. They were stocks trading at penny status. So it made my investments. So when the guards saw one play with the Rite Aid play, and was like, whoa, he told everybody. And they came, and it was like, and they came. I got 100,000. I got, and it was all retirement money. So like, I didn't have to like get you to take it out of your bank account. I had to get you to take it out of your retirement account.
Well, right, because you could invest in stocks using your retirement, your 401k, and so forth.
Yes, but I wanted them to take the money out of that and create separate accounts for them, because 401k, you can't touch it. I need to be able to touch it.
You could invest your 401k into actual stocks.
Right, but if you invest money into actual stocks, it sits in stocks. I need you to invest money that I can get my hands on. I can't get my hands on your 401k money.
Okay, why would you need to get your hands on their money, though?
So I can spend it and they can spend it. We finna live off this money. That shit y'all doing don't work. All that leaving it there for 401k stuff is a rouge. That stuff doesn't prepare you for none of that stuff in the state. So this is the thing.
I have a lot of money in my 401k.
Of course.
I'm very glad that I do.
But you hear what you say? I got a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money ain't,
Yeah.
I got $100,000 and you trying to build a $2 million portfolio. Come on, that's not gonna happen.
I got you. No,
and
fair enough. Yeah.
I know guards who was working up their wardens who had $500,000 in their retirements, but worked 40 years.
Yeah.
For $500,000, and been working for the state. So, and I seen some big retirements up there. I'm talking about people who's in headquarters. Oh man, who's retirement?
So you're telling me that the guards, were you working with the warden as well?
So yeah, for sure.
Okay. So these guards and these wardens, they're not letting you manage their money, but they're taking your advice and then investing based on your recommendations?
No. What they doing is they coming in and saying, hey, Street, I got $150,000 retirement. Tell me how I go access this money. Come on, sit down. They sit with me. I tell them, go to CalPERS. This is what you do. Go in, tell them, fill out the paperwork, tell them that you want to borrow $50,000 against your retirement. You're going to take the money that you currently making, that you currently paying. So say they're giving them $500 a month. They matching you $500 a month. You're going to increase that to $1,500 a month. They're not gonna match you no more than what you spending, but you're gonna increase that. And now the state is gonna let you, instead of increasing your retirement every month, you're gonna pay back the 100,000 we taking, you're gonna pay yourself back, and you're working anyway. So instead of working to pay for retirement, you're gonna work to pay back the money we take, and I'm gonna build the extra retirement for you. We're gonna open up the broker, I'm gonna take this 100 G's, put it in the broker, and give me 30 days. You give me 30 days, I'll bring back $10,000. That play there turned everything up because now.
Right, but you're not actually managing their money. You're telling them what to do themselves.
No, I'm sitting there with a cell phone where they do it. You give me the shit and I'm going to go in there and make the buys and sells. I'm going in there doing the buying and selling.
So you're buying and selling on their behalf.
Hell yeah.
They trust you enough that you don't just transfer the money into some other offshore account and then they can't access it.
My thing was, he came, one of the captains, he say, man, how I know you just don't transfer the money to the offshore account?
Yeah.
I said, well, damn, if I do that, how the hell am I gonna get over there and get it?
I'm doing life in prison.
So, what good do it do me to send a bunch of money to accounts I ain't over there? If I was over there, hell yeah, I'm not over there. I'm right here in prison. So, I need you and your family to do well so you can keep telling you and your friends about what the business I'm doing to keep bringing the money so we can grow the portfolios. That was the whole point.
Okay, and
not
are you
try to steal from them no more.
Yeah.
Past that.
So are you taking a piece of the profits?
That was complicated because I didn't have any place to send money. Like, all I understood was the markets. I hadn't figured out get the girl, get the account. I wasn't doing that part. I just did the stock part. So when the money came and I wanted something, I got it. If I wanted to buy packages, man, I had Cartier watches, man. If you don't know, you would never see me in a picture outside of being in Pelican Bay where I ever have something that says CDCR prisoner. I never wore nothing that said prisoner. Everything with me is look like I'm on the streets. Nikes and all this sort of stuff.
Because
that's how I dress.
Because the prison staff that you were making money for would then kick you back money and buy you things, or?
Nah, I buy my own stuff. If I got access to your account, I don't need you to buy me shit. I got access to your account.
Okay.
Look, I can take $100,000 account, especially $100,000 account, and I can bring back in light trading $10K a month on 100 G's. This was light trading. So,
that sounds good in theory, but you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who could consistently bring you back a 10% return per month. That's 100% return, 120% return per year.
So then
it's you can't listen. I know stock investing. Yes, you'll get lucky. Yes, you'll have something that goes up
right
consistently. There is nobody, including Warren Buffett, who is considered the greatest of all time, who will consistently bring you back 120% returns every year. It's not true.
Watch this.
It doesn't happen.
Watch this. If you have a portfolio and you put $1 million in a portfolio, and in 5 years, the first 3 years, the portfolio don't do nothing.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 years, the portfolio jumped 50%.
Yes.
They'll say for each one of these years, they'll divide that, and they'll say for all 5 years, the portfolio. They won't say for the 2 years. They'll show the length of the time of the investment. This is compound. So to your point,
yes, compound interest.
So,
I understand.
Which means you can show, because if I have a 5-year portfolio, all the time, you go to these hedge fund managers, we got 3 years you sitting here. Mm-hmm. We don't need to make money every year. If we have a blowout year, the last year we there, we've made money for your entire run of your portfolio here. Right. They don't say anything about that, so I can.
That's fair, but what I'm saying is...
So then you know that to be true.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, if the Warren gives you $100,000, that next month he won't have $110,000. He might have $90,000.
Why he won't have 110?
He might, but it's not guaranteed. And it's relatively unlikely. If the whole market drops, he might have 80.
Oh, well, everybody know that. You right now, if the markets fell right now, your ass will lose all your shit. Mm-hmm. Just like everybody else.
Right.
Warren Buffett, everybody included,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So we all know that. But you know for a fact, that you have your money, in places where you can guarantee this kind of return.
No such thing. The only thing you can guarantee.
You wouldn't have it there then.
The only thing you can guarantee is if you have like an interest-bearing account. Like right now, I have an account that gets like 4.5% because interest rates are high.
Okay, because interest
rates are high. But this is a situation that hasn't happened in the last 15 years.
So
interest rates have been pretty much zero. So you could put your money in a bank account, an interest-bearing account that might make 1%. But what I'm saying is, I've been investing for 15 years now.
And I've been investing for 20.
there were years where I was down.
That's true. It's always like that. Everybody, you're right.
I look down. I look down my. I keep track of my stock portfolio.
And you know why you was down them years?
Because the whole market was down.
No, that's not why. That's not why you was down them years.
Why is that?
You was down them years because you didn't realize any gains them years. Watch this, and this is for a fact.
Right. These are all paper.
No.
Paper
For sure.
situation. It doesn't mean that I've sold anything.
No,
yet.
I know.
Yeah.
But watch. When we talk about guarantees, this is what I mean, and this is true, and you know this to be the case. If I purchase a stock for $10 for 100 G's, and that stock jumped $1, and I see $10,000 on the table, I can sell that stock on the minute, right?
Correct.
So when you say, and I'm sitting there in the morning, starting January 1st, $100,000 portfolio. Today I just made $1,000. Today I just made $500. The next day, you telling me, watch this. Prior to the BP oil spill, you remember when the BP oil spill happened? Prior to that oil spill, BP had never missed a year of paying dividends, which means they pay dividends.
Correct.
So that means for 30 plus years, they have guaranteed their shareholders. For 30 plus years, if they never missed a payment, they have guaranteed their shareholders that we will pay unless the board decides we won't pay, and they know that.
Dividends aren't 10%.
Stop.
Dividends are like maybe 3%.
It depends on how much money you got. If you go put billions of dollars there.
3% is 3%.
3%, yeah, but if it's $3 million.
The money doesn't matter.
For sure.
3% is 3%.
For sure. But you said you couldn't guarantee no investments.
Well, you can guarantee a dividend.
That's an investment.
Yes, but it's not 10%. And it's definitely not 10% per month. It's 3% per year.
It depends
which
on.
is like a fraction of a percent per month.
So if you bought a company that had a stock price that was $3 versus a stock price that was $20, your dividend yield can push that high.
Meaning that if it goes down?
If Apple if Apple right now pays 3% dividend, it's because Apple's stock price is $100+ a share. If Apple's stock price came down, that dividend would go higher.
Correct.
Which means you can have a stock that has a low stock price that's paying a high dividend yield, which can be 10%, and they can give it to you per year.
Correct.
Bingo.
But the dividend for Apple
It's not that
right
high.
now.
What is it? Like 2%?
0.5%.
Look at the stock price, right?
Stock price is $189.
$189. And what
Yes.
they paying? What, $3 a share, $2, $2.50 a share, something like that? Crazy?
I mean, if you look at 0.5%,
Well, I
it's,
know,
it's, it's
yeah,
a
I
tiny,
know,
it's a
yeah,
tiny
yeah.
percentage.
Yeah, it is.
And you never know. Company does horrible, dividend goes away.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
All I'm saying is, and I need to hammer this in because people are going to watch this and they're going to say, well, Curtis said this money's guaranteed. It is not guaranteed. It is not. You cannot say it's guaranteed. The only thing that's guaranteed is if you put your money right now in an interest-bearing account, for example, like Apple.
That's not even guaranteed.
That's guaranteed at that time.
Yes, it is.
It might change tomorrow.
But it's guaranteed at that time. Yes.
If it's a 4.5% interest rate and you put your money in, that day you will get 4.5% divided by 365.
True.
And that's the money you'll get.
It
is not, but once again, I need to make this very clear because I don't want people throwing a bunch of money into the market because Curtis said it's guaranteed. It's not guaranteed.
True. That's true.
When the whole market goes down, usually your stocks will go down right along with it.
Because you won't sell your portfolio.
Exactly.
If you sell your portfolio, your stocks will not go down.
Correct.
And you will guarantee yourself money.
Correct.
All you have to
do at that time, if you have a profit at that time. If you have a loss at that time, you guarantee a loss.
That's true.
It goes both ways.
If you put a limit order in when your stock price go up, you have just guaranteed yourself money.
100%. You also pay taxes on your gains.
You still guarantee yourself money.
Let's not forget that part.
That's true. You got to pay tax. If you don't pay tax, you don't go to jail.
And if it's less than a year, then you pay based on your entire income tax.
And if it is longer than a year, you only pay 15% capital gain.
Exactly.
Which is
what you should do.
Right.
Me, I rarely sell. I have Google stock from
You're rich.
2010.
Most rich people don't sell. They don't have to. You're rich. And that's not a bad thing. No, but this the thing that I try to tell you about investments all the time. I tell people this. Go look at my old videos that I've made. People say you can't guarantee nothing. Then all you have to do, go back to, because you can easily see, Street said he picked the whole industry. I picked the whole airline industry. If there's no guarantees of this stuff as they say, and I just stand on this
isn't.
for sure, and I stay, there is no way Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, these people could be billionaires for 50, 60 years. It's impossible. There is nothing, it's impossible for you to have that kind of wealth for that long if there is no guarantee to finance. It's impossible. It's impossible.
There is no guarantee, but you have a certain margin of safety.
You have pure safety when you have that kind of money and
you have
moving in the way.
safety, meaning that, for example,
you know that because you got money.
I have a bunch of Amazon stock, right? When people like to say, well, stocks are the same thing as gambling, no difference. Completely different.
That's right.
When you gamble, you put a certain amount of money on that table, you play a card or you spin the dice or you do a roulette wheel, whatever comes up, you either win or you lose. It's a zero-sum game. When you invest in a company, in a stock, it's not a gamble.
Ain't no gamble.
You're buying a piece of that company. It's no different than if you have a pizza shop in your neighborhood and you go to the guy and say, listen, I'm going to buy half your pizza shop. Here's $100,000 from here on in. I'm a co-owner. I get half the profits. And if we sell, then I get half of whatever the sale price is. It's not the same thing as rolling dice on the corner and coming up craps or hitting snake eyes or whatever else. It's completely different. You're buying a piece of the company. So when I buy Amazon, I own a lot of Amazon. Amazon has factories. Amazon has customer bases. They have subscribers to Amazon Prime that bring in billions of dollars a month. It's not going to go to zero. And it is physically impossible for it to go to zero.
And the main reason why that is because of what? Is because of the amount of shares that Amazon has outstanding.
Correct.
And so when your company has 8 billion shares outstanding, you can guarantee, this is what I'm trying to tell you and tell these viewers here, y'all is missing this shit. When you have a corporation worth $3 trillion, that is a guaranteed investment. Why? Because every major pension fund, hedge fund in the world has access to the stock because of what they pay. Everybody got Apple because of what they pay. That you say 1.8% on a $2 trillion portfolio is a lot of money.
Yes.
So people gonna say, if I'm New York City or I'm California pension system, go buy Apple stock and sit for 20 years because our people gonna be sitting here retired for 20 years.
Exactly. You do have situations though. Right. For example, you have public companies like Enron. At one point it was revealed they're cooking their books. That all the money they claimed they had wasn't really money. People were playing around with the numbers to make it look like profits were coming in. And then you find out that it was all, a house of cards that comes coming down, everything crashes, the stock drops 80, 90%, whatever else. It gets sold off, whatever assets, the company goes out of business, whatever assets they have gets sold off. So you might get something back, but it could be a catastrophe. And listen, Enron was a major company. Major company with pension funds invested in it, billionaires invested in it. It could happen, but you still have something to its name, and it's still going to be worth something because there are assets. There's still revenue. They own buildings and so forth.
Something to get out.
Look, all I'm saying is, real estate is not guaranteed. People like to say, "Well, they're not making any more land." Take a plane from New York to LA and see how much unused land is in America that nobody wants. Okay, you can buy swampland in Florida without any electricity or whatever. They're not making any more land, and that land is worthless. You can sit on it for 100 years, and it won't be worth nothing. Right. So what I'm saying is there are no guaranteed investments. There are good investments and there are bad investments, and it happens everywhere. Stocks, real estate, crypto, brick and mortar businesses, investing in your friend. It's all an investment, and every investment is unique. And yes, you go into a big company like Apple or Google, which I own as well, or Tesla, they have assets. And yes, it's not going to go down to zero, but it could drop 50% in a year out of nowhere.
Well, we wanted to. So you can go in and buy
more
cheaper.
if you believe in the company.
Yeah, you want
but,
that.
If you're at the point where, hey, I am taking money out of my 401k and I got to pay that back, and what I take out, I lose 50% on, that's a hard pill to swallow. It's a risk. And all I'm saying is not a guarantee. It's a risk.
It's a strategy.
You take all your money.
Strategy.
If I have $1 million 401k, right, retirement fund, I take $500,000 out, and I buy Tesla stock with it, and that year...
Why would you be buying Tesla stock with that, though?
Because you believe in the company. Let's just say...
But that's my point.
But
you
what I'm
shouldn't
saying
be
is-
buying things because you believe in it. You should be buying things because the data supports the investment. And so that's the point I'm saying. Like,
Correct.
If people are buying things because what you think, then that's not an investment. You know, you buy things because the number says...
Correct.
Based on this, like for, if we talking about MFT, Bitcoin is up now. So every company, major company, that's a mining company, for the next this remainder of this year are going to have blowout revenue. They're going to because
Yes.
Bitcoin is up. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Now, will the stock prices follow? It's different, but these companies are going to have blow revenue because Bitcoin is high.
Correct.
That's a guarantee. So my point is when I say this, the same person that has the $1 million portfolio, if I go in and take the money, I don't go to Tesla. I says right now, the data shows you just reported earnings for the first quarter, you just reported for the second quarter, and y'all got earnings coming for the rest of the year because Bitcoin is high of money that's went in. So I would take it and put it here because the investment is already priced in. Like the guaranteed piece, I'm not talking about guarantee like, oh, we just running. I'm talking about it's a guaranteed play on the strategy.
I think what you're saying is you have a margin of safety.
Yes, a
which is
huge margin of safety.
A Warren Buffett term. And
Yes, a good point, yes.
yes, and Warren Buffett, this is something that always, I always think about during my investment time, is the stock market is a popularity game in the short term and a weighing game in the long term. Meaning, you could have a hot stock because the news is reporting that, they have this big AI, breakthrough and they're poised to become this. And the CEO is very outspoken like an Elon Musk and he's saying all this cool stuff and everyone's into him. Or the opposite. Elon Musk goes and smokes weed and, says buys Twitter and says a bunch of crazy stuff and the stock, the Tesla stock drops. Like that's when I bought my Tesla. When he was doing all his dumb shit.
So did I.
And the, Tesla stopped, and I own Tesla. So, I know the company already. I said, okay, it's dropped way lower than I've seen it in a while. I'm going to buy a bunch of Tesla stock because right now it's unpopular.
Right.
But in the long term, any company where every quarter they show more profit, more revenue consistently, it's almost guaranteed. Because I don't like to say guaranteed, but it's almost guaranteed.
And you could take that.
You could almost guarantee that over time that stock price will go up.
You could take that.
It's very hard to find a company that continuously makes higher profit quarter after quarter, quarter after quarter, year after year, and the stock price stays flat or goes down. No, it doesn't work that way. The company becomes more valuable.
Right.
And therefore, the stock price goes up.
And and to the point you say, people who have a lot of money because they make a lot of money have an easier time with dollar cost averaging. And this is why I tell
That's what I do.
People who say about dollar cost averaging, people who don't have a lot of money can't dollar cost average like that. And so this is what you
They
give
can
them.
now because you can buy partial stocks
True,
and so
but
forth.
here's the thing, a partial stock not going to do nothing for you. So when you're living in the hood,
it depends on where you are. It depends where you are in life.
But a person with money, and I said this, rich people always say, hey man, this the hot book to read. You rich. It's easy for you to say that when the person who has the partial stock can't sell it to put gas in the car. And this is why I tell people, people could say all you want about just get a little bit in, but having stocks is not just some game you play. It is a strategy to building wealth. It's not to go in and I'm just going to get a couple pieces here. No, that's not how you played it.
And a lot of people...
And people play it that way. And that's why they fail all the time. And they be talking about...
You and I are on the same page. It's just there's just certain things that I don't want to put out there. Because I feel dangerous. Because I don't want someone to say, well, this is guaranteed. Let me go put all my money into it.
No.
And the thing is also, I always tell people this, because I made a few stock videos. People don't seem to understand this concept of, well, if you don't sell, how am I benefiting from this? Because I think most people think, hey, I'm going to invest in this stock and it's going to go up, and then I'm going to take the profits and go buy a Porsche. But that's not really how you invest.
No.
The way you invest is you plan on keeping that money there forever. You are building your wealth. You're building your portfolio. You are compound interest. You're taking advantage of compound interest. You're not supposed to take it out. Like with my strategy, the only time I ever sell a stock is if I'm no longer confident that it's a company I want to be invested in.
But you also have spendable income where you can go in and make a play. So if you took the same strategy like you say, with a person that was only had $500 and they put it in there, and you got people with $500, $600 buying Apple stocks. I tell people, why should you? That's foolish. Why would you take $500 and buy a stock, $150 and get 3 shares? Let's say the stock jumped $300. You make no money. It doesn't make good sense to purchase securities that don't give your portfolio the best performance, and then you get emotional because it's all about the emotional aspect of what you do, which means
emotional intelligence is the most important thing.
Most people who buy stocks don't sell a stock.
Right.
To your point, even the little guy, because of the emotions of thinking, it's going to keep going up, which means if you never sell any stocks, not you personally, but a person, you can never build a portfolio because dollar cost averaging it's realized gains.
That's not true.
Watch this.
That's not true. I bought my Google stock, my initial shares of Google stock, I bought back in 2010.
How many shares you buy?
I don't remember the number of shares.
How much
the
money
shares
you
I
spend?
bought are now up 14 times.
How much money you spend, right? You just roughly round about what?
Let's say 100,000.
You can't find another person average to tell you, I went and took $100,000, went and got Google stock. They ain't gonna do it. You can't find 3 people to tell you 17 months ago they went and got Facebook stock, which by the way, everybody in the world, Chinese, Africa, everybody knew that Facebook stock, in the S&P 500, one of the largest companies the world's ever seen, stock price was down at the bottom of the can, and people wouldn't take $2 and go buy it. So I say that to say is that you, like me, has the anomaly to understand $100,000 right here is going to be 3 times that. People don't get that. So they go get 2 shares of Google. They get 3. They don't go say, this is this. People don't invest that way. And so I try to tell people that what I was able to do in the pen with finance is guarantee myself a way to make revenue consistently. That's what I did. Now, if that was making revenue every day, every week, whatever, I made returns. Because then I tell people, go find me someone on the internet today to say, the shit the street's saying is lie. He lost my money, he rouge, he ain't never made that. It's all this. All this shit I got out here. I said, if all I say can't be, you find one. I said, I was predicting shit beyond imagination.
Right.
Find me somebody that said it ain't the case.
Right.
So I'm saying to people that you may say this ain't the case, but I have strategies, foolproof strategies that can guarantee.
Not foolproof.
Not foolproof, meaning that no, the markets can't go down.
No one is foolproof.
Not me. So let me reframe.
Warren Buffett has lost money on investments.
So if Warren Buffett loses $25 billion, what have you lost?
He's fine.
You've been invested. So what loss? So when you say lose what? So that's what I'm saying. You keep saying lose. What money you lose? If Google went out right now, you ain't lost no money. It's value. You ain't sold now stock.
Yeah, if I sold. If I sell, then I lose.
So there is no loss here. You know this. And you know that when people sell their stocks for losses, they rotate over gains. So This is a rouge that people in the markets lose money like that. To your point, it ain't no safeguards. You can't predict that you're going to make money. But this is what I tell people.
No, there isn't. Listen, even Amazon, if it was found out that Amazon was cooking his books,
it could be a 75% loss in one day. It'd be held to pay. He'd be held to pay.
Right? Jeff Bezos is gone, and the guy who took over was, and
that's always the risk to the
bad
portfolio.
drug habit, and who the hell knows? It's happened before; it'll happen again. In fact, when you look at like the S&P 500 from like 20 years ago, I think like 90% of the companies are no longer on the S&P 500.
That's true.
Things change.
That's true.
Companies, not every company evolves. When I was a kid, Sears was the biggest department store ever. Now Sears, are they still around? I mean, they sold most of their stores and most of their property. If they're around, they're just barely
it's like a little
around.
small.
BlackBerry was the hottest cell phone company in the world.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do the touch screen. They felt
the
keyboard.
Question is,
they're a penny stock.
But the question is, have a person was able to make money? And obviously some people going to lose. So like you say, you don't have no safeguards, no guarantees. And I'd imagine this for sure. Yeah. But if you put $1 a limit order in place.
Yes.
I don't care. They come out and say
no,
Amazon cooked the books.
You could sell, but you know something? That's also what I feel is not a great strategy. Because if I believe in a company, if I'm invested in a company.
Now you about to go around circles. I see where you about to go.
If I believe in a company and it falls below the amount of money that I bought it for, I will then dollar cost average and buy more shares.
So will I.
At a cheaper price.
So will I.
If all my stocks, if I had sold at the point that it broke even, I wouldn't be very far these days.
For sure.
You see what I'm saying?
But you don't need the money.
I would not have the portfolio that I have.
But you don't need the money. So tell that to a person who needs the money.
Well, this is what I tell a person that needs the money, and I've made a video about this, so you could go back into my catalog and see. You should never invest money that you will potentially need for bills.
No, you should not.
Ever.
No, you should not. Especially if you don't know what you're doing.
Even if you know what you're doing, you should never invest money that you may have to pull out for your living expenses.
To pay bills of tomorrow, no, you shouldn't.
Because at the time that you pull them out, there's a good chance the market's going to be low.
It's good.
Because
it'll be down.
If you're fucked up, usually the world is fucked up to go along with it. So let's just say you buy a whole bunch of stocks. You buy a bunch of, Apple at $100. And then suddenly, 4 months later, you lose your job or whatever else. You have a new baby. You have a car accident. You got to pull that money out. It may be the worst time in the world to pull that money out. You should only put aside the money and invest when you know you're not going to touch it. You should have an emergency account, cash account in your savings or some interest rate account, interest bearing account. That should be your emergency.
Most people don't have that.
And your stocks are your long term that you never have to touch.
And most people don't got that.
Most people don't have that, but
they should.
Over time,
but they should.
They should.
And they ain't gonna have it because they live their lives like we do in the hood, like they sell dope, like to do these things. So when you start saying to people, hey man, you do this, people say, well, I do that play. But you're right. Those things you're supposed to have, and those are the things we're trying to get people to have. But if people don't have those things, then what? You just don't give them nothing? Well, and so then it becomes trying to get them there. What strategies? You have to take risks.
Right. And what I feel is a good overall strategy for people, if I didn't know a lot about stock investing and I had a certain, let's just say I had $10,000 in my savings, I have it under my mattress and I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. What I've told people, and what, even people like Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, have all said, put in the S&P 500. You have diversification built in. You have the top 500 companies, top 500, a piece of the top 500 companies in the country already. My whole 401k is in the S&P 500, top to bottom. And I've done great with it. S&P 500 has a small dividend. It's relatively safe compared to an individual stock. When I look at my portfolio, I compare it to the S&P 500. Most years I've done better, but some years the S&P 500 has kicked my ass. I've done way less than the S&P 500. You know what I'm saying? In retrospect, if I wanted to just take it easy, I would have just put everything in the S&P 500, and I would have made less, but not way less.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to double, triple, quadruple your money in a short period of time, but
it's safer.
It's safer.
It is safer.
And if the S&P 500 goes to zero, then the whole world is gone at that point.
That's not about to happen.
That means that a nuclear missile has dropped on America and there's
bad.
no people left and they're colonizing Mars. Yeah. That's what that means. Right, it's not going to go to zero like a bet in Las Vegas.
No.
It's not.
No.
It's not.
No.
Well, at one point you get transferred to Pelican Bay.
I got transferred to Pelican Bay in 2018.
2018. You're around 40 years old.
That's about that, yeah.
Why? And Pelican Bay has a real notorious reputation.
Yeah.
That's where they put some of the real, like the terrorists and, it's a supermax, right?
Yeah. Pelican Bay is where they send most of the people who they don't want to house in any other parts of the prison because of their crimes or because they're gang leaders or because you might have committed more crimes in prison. They send you to Pelican Bay.
Why were you sent to Pelican Bay?
Because I committed more crimes in prison. Well, it wasn't a crime I committed in prison, but I got my property was searched, and the security squad found the cell phone that I was using to communicate with my finance people, with the people on my team, and they got that cell phone, and when they unlocked that cell phone and saw those numbers, that created a big old scandal around me in San Quentin, and that's how I got sent to Pelican Bay.
Was it because the amount of money they found that you were moving through that cell phone?
No, thankfully, no. It wasn't that. It was because they had contact information from people who I had been doing business with that worked at the prison and was at the prison.
So were the prison employees busted as well?
Not the employees, the volunteers, some of the volunteers, the volunteer for my program and other programs, they were names they saw. The other stuff that was there, they saw, but they wasn't able to go, and I wasn't going to provide the information. So thankful in that regard, but it was enough to launch the investigation.
So you went from San Quentin to Pelican Bay.
Pelican Bay.
Now, San Quentin has a bad reputation too, but not like Pelican Bay.
Right. No, not like Pelican Bay.
So were things worse when you got to Pelican Bay?
Yes, at first. Yes, it was. I mean, the living conditions are different. I mean, I've been in prison 27 years, so violence is violence no matter where you at, right? So worse in the sense of that was the first prison I'd been to post all the notoriety. So I didn't know what I was like nowhere else. Prior to that, I had been to all the different prisons, but I was only known in the prison system. People knew me for trading and for doing what I was doing inside, but I had nobody know me on the street.
Okay.
And so when I got to Pelican Bay, everybody knew I was there, and so it was like, whoa, it was an adjustment, a big adjustment I had to make.
Okay, but wasn't it a more serious class of criminal there as well?
Yeah. I mean, you got guys that was up there who was from previous prisons we was at, who we knew people you didn't know. But yes, there was a lot more serious guy, and it was a lot more violence there. I mean, there's a lot more violence. The Sacramento Department of Corrections has been trying to change the prison system around. And part of that change to make things better, according to the department, was Pelican Bay. And moving people to Pelican Bay for the integration process, which is how I so-called got there. I got in trouble, and then I got wrapped into this integration to move me up there. So when you open up a prison, you always have a lot of violence, people trying to vie for territory, vying for space. And so we went through a lot of that being there. While I was trying to get ready to go to the parole board and a bunch of other stuff that was happening.
Okay, so you go to Pelican Bay in 2018. By that time, let me do the math in my head. 23 years, 24 years in?
Mm-hmm.
You still have a 57 to life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a state case, it's a violent
mm-hmm.
state case, meaning that, 75%?
Yeah.
It's not 50%.
85.
Let's just do the math. 57 times 0.85 is about 48 years, 48 and a half years. At this point, when you get to Pelican Bay, do you feel like you might get out, or do you think, hey man, I'm nowhere near my 85% minimum, so I'm here to stay?
I don't think I'm gonna get out because, I'm torn because I just got this 115 transfer here. I gotta go to the parole board, so they're not about to let me go home with this.
Because you got in trouble again, basically.
Yeah, this was the first time I'd been in trouble in like 6-7 years, so it'd been a minute. But now, because of what it was and who I was, when I went to go see the psych, they gave it to me. They accused me of being a menace to society, heinous, and they labeled me high risk for a threat to the community.
Okay.
So when I'm gonna go to the parole board, they're gonna see, well, you're high risk, and it went just as psycho. You're high risk, we think you're lying, we think you ain't being honest with the public, we think you done tricked these people, we think this all a rouge, you done tricked all these women, you a womanizer, this whole big old thing. This whole big, it's all a lie. You've been in here trying to get people to circumvent paying restitution, and they denied me 5 years at the parole board.
Okay, when you go in the parole board, was the family's victims showing up?
But nobody there.
No one there.
Just me and the parole board and my lawyer.
Okay, so you're getting denied. But then at one point, you don't get denied.
So I get denied, and my team is trying to prepare me to go back to the parole board. I don't want to go. I'm like, man, I'm cool. I don't think they're going to let me go home, and they playing games. And so I got 2 defense teams. I got a criminal defense team that's a high-powered team taking me to my 1437 hearing, and I got another criminal defense team representing me on my parole board.
Okay, hold on one second. How are you paying these defense teams?
I'm not. Somebody else is.
Oh, so somebody that you helped out financially?
No, somebody who I've met while in prison, who's a hedge fund manager and retired, is paying all these bills for all this stuff.
Really?
Yes, paying his lawyers and paying all this stuff.
Just because he took a liking to you? Or did you actually give him some stock ideas?
No, I didn't give him no stock ideas. He's rich. He's already got money, all this stuff. So I met him through a organization called the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, ARC. And Scott Butnett is a good friend of mine. And Scott introduced me to his people on his board at ARC. And this particular person is one of ARC's board members and one of his financiers. And so when he introduced me to this guy, I was like, hey man, I got a program, I'm doing finances. I invited him to come into my program in San Quentin. He came back in, seen it, and he invited one of the hedge funds that he got money into. He invited the fund managers of that fund into my program to come talk to us about that. And that's how me and him got cool. And we got cool, and he stayed in contact. And he was like, man, I want to support like what you're doing. And so he supported the classes. So I'll be like, I got some dudes in the classes, man. I got a kid in here who's doing good. I want to send him to college. I want to get him some stuff. He'd be like, all right, send it to me. Let me know. So everything that I wanted to support and do, they did. They paid for, I'd send them. I had cats I want to go to college. I got dudes I want to buy stuff for in the streets, send it to them, and then him and his wife, they pay for it. They're like parents to me at this point.
Okay.
And they paid for when I got my evidentiary hearing, and they decided they was gonna give me this hearing. I didn't have a legal team. I had my board preparation team, but I didn't have a team to go here. So he went and hired me this high criminal defense team, it's crazy, to take me in to go fight this case. And they were my lawyers for, I don't know, probably 2 years. I mean, probably over a year.
How much money do you think this guy spent on you?
Probably $500,000.
$500,000. Right, because everyone else in your position would be going to these parole boards solo, trying to come up with a sob story, trying to cry.
I didn't go back.
But you actually had actual high-powered lawyers, $500,000 invested. That's crazy.
One of my top lawyers, so 2 of my top lawyers, Keith Wiley was my top lawyer on my board side, and Martin Sabelli. I think Martin Sabelli now, I think he might be the president of the Lawyers Association now, I believe. You might look him at Martin Sabelli, but Martin Sabelli was my number 1 lawyer who they hired to take me to this case. And this was during the pandemic, so like I was getting phone calls with them every week, and my team was paying for all this stuff through this whole time.
Right, so that means that when you and I had that phone interview back in 2019,
this guy was here. This guy was already a part of my team.
Right,
at that phone
exactly.
interview.
But you weren't sure. You were still wondering if you're ever going to come home.
But he had already hired me, the board people. I hadn't had the criminal defense team, but he already got me the board people already. I already had them sitting there waiting for me to go. I just had years to go before I went.
At one point, you go to the parole board with your legal team, and something different happens.
I go in. What are you talking about, when I went to the board?
Yes.
So when I went into the board, they surprised me with this thing about me manipulating the restitution process. Basically saying that they got a kite saying that I was helping prisoners circumvent paying restitution. That I was showing them how to go and put money in other people's books, and they wanted me to say that I'd done that. And I wouldn't. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, I'm just hearing about this from my lawyer like 2 seconds before I'm walking here to y'all. And they're like, well, you don't know anything about it? I'm like, I don't know anything about that. And they're just not believing me. They're like, come on, man, you can't be just the oracle all this, and you can't not be doing that stuff. And it just went downhill from the get-go. It was all bad. I knew at that point I wasn't going out.
Right, but at one point, things reversed.
So we filed a motion to the courts, basically asking them to reverse. And when we did that, we wrote a letter to Senator Skinner and say, hey, this is my story. They already knew who I was. And basically, she wrote a letter to the parole board. She wrote a letter to the governor's office, and she wrote a letter to people over the parole board and told them that she had read through my paperwork and she didn't see any evidence to substantiate the claim that they were using to deny me 5 years, and that she wanted them to take me back to the board and give me another hearing ASAP. And they did it. They held the hearing. They held the hearing. My people went to the hearing. They had the Zoom hearing, and nobody opposed me. I didn't get not one opposed, not one.
The entire parole board agreed.
No, yes, the entire board agreed to let me go, but when they said, hey, do we got anyone opposing him? Not even the DA's office, nobody opposed me.
Is it because of your legal team?
That's a good question. What people also don't know was that I was working with the DA's office under the table with helping them build a financial education component where men who were on parole could come back home and take the program and get out. That never came to fruition, but I was secretly having conversations with the DA's office in Pelican Bay about that program. So I felt that when the board decided to reverse the decision to send me back to the parole board, I wasn't gonna go. I was gonna go to the DA's office and tell them to resentence me since I had been working with them. And that was my angle. But I had to wait for them not to oppose me so I can go in and tell them I wanted to be resentenced. And my team didn't think that was gonna work because they didn't think they was gonna resentence me. That was my angle, and that was when things kind of started going bad and good. Meaning bad that my team wouldn't support the route, but good in that I believed that the route would work, and so I wrote a letter to, so we wrote something to the DA's office. And Senator Skinner decided again, and she wrote a letter directly to Nancy O'Malley, DA Nancy O'Malley, personally, and told her that she wanted her to resentence me as soon as possible.
So you didn't get parole, you got resentenced.
I got resentenced.
And the new sentence was what?
They dropped my murder charge, and I took a sentence for 30 years. We're giving my 27 years, and for the manslaughter, for manslaughter. Yeah, took it for manslaughter.
So by reducing the sentence, how much longer did you have?
To do
At that point?
When they reduced it?
Yes.
A month.
So after doing 27 years on a 56 to life sentence, you were told you're getting out in 1 month.
I was told I was getting out in 1 month, but the judge said, you be home next week.
How did that feel?
Not real. It was kind of like, because they were like, you don't seem too enthused about it. And it was like, yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, because at this point in your life, for every day that you had done free, you did a day and a half in prison.
Yeah, I'd been in prison longer than I'd been alive.
Way longer.
Yeah, way longer than I'd been alive.
Because you went at 17, and you were doing 27 years at that point. Prison to you was more normal than life on the outside.
Yeah.
Because think about it, you don't even remember much before 6, 7 years old.
No.
So you got to even think that realistically you'd only done about 10 years outside that you could remember and 27 years in prison.
Yeah.
So you couldn't even put your head around it.
Right. No, and we were sitting in the room, and the guards, they had all knew me, so they were like, dude, you out. And it was weird. I was walking back and everybody was like, you just don't seem. And I remember thinking that, like, if they play games, this is the last straw.
Meaning what?
Meaning that, like, I wasn't gonna sit there. At that moment, I don't know what I was gonna do, but I wasn't gonna accept anything other than what he said at that point when the judge had said it. You know. Then I think the captain came to see me, and he congratulated me, and he was like, man, what's wrong? I said, man, I hear him, man. I said, I don't know, man. And he said, listen. He said, I'll be here the day you leave. He said, you have my word. You'll walk out the door that morning. And I was like, that's when I was kind of like, I'm out. He was a really good, close confidant of mine.
Was that the longest week of your life?
Yeah.
Because every day you're thinking,
well, it was
this
long,
much
but
closer,
everybody came and see me. Everybody, staff, and I'm at Pelican Bay. Like, staff don't do stuff like they were generally happy for me to get out, and like staff aren't really happy. Like, they don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just a job.
Yeah, like they were like coming to see me. Hey man, come over, and they wrote me a chrono saying that I helped change the culture of the prison. I was there 4.5 years. Painting, and the class. It was a bunch of the different stuff that I ended up doing, but being there. I remember walking out that morning. It was cold outside. It was hella cold. It was dark as hell. And I remember the air just blowing all kind of ways. Like, in prison, like, it's like the breeze go one way. And I remember just like, whew. And we rode to a restaurant, got some food. My mom was there, my friend was there, a couple people, not that many people. And then we left from there and we rode to a private airstrip. I got on a private plane.
You got on a private plane? Oh, because the hedge fund manager got you a private plane.
Private plane.
I love it.
I got on a private plane.
What's his name again?
The guy?
The hedge fund guy.
Paul Blavin. It's my dad, my family, Paul Blavin. Yeah, so.
This is a white guy?
Yeah. Google him and you'll
hold on, I'm about to look him up.
Paul,
how do you spell his last name?
Blavin, Blavin.
This guy right here?
That guy right there. That guy right there. Yeah, so.
Paul Blavin is the co-founder and CEO of Mercy Bioanalytics. Began his career in 1986 as an investment banker with Citibank. Couldn't look up his net worth. I tried. I'm sure it's rather high.
Hey,
he's not a celebrity per se.
No, he's not a celebrity. No, he's not a celebrity. He's not some known, but he is a man of very character, prestige, and with what he does, with his organizations, with his companies. He have the Blavin Scholars at Michigan State, where he's taking people who were foster kids and helped them get businesses. Matter of fact, Mercy Bioanalytics, that company, that pharmaceutical company that he started, he founded that company with one of the Blavin Scholars that his organization founded at Michigan. So, and then me, right? I was in, like he supported me, so he's really been instrumental in my life as far as when I was inside when I met him, and as far as getting out, different things and being really a mentor of sorts of things that I need. And, when I need what I need, he's there to be a guidance. And it just really kind of taught me a lot about like business. Like I wasn't some gimmick, it wasn't some, him, he helped validate a lot of, and not like where he was like saying this is what you do, because he don't talk a lot about finance. Like that's not really our thing. You don't talk about money per se. A lot of what he does is about helping people, and it's about being of service. And so he used to always tell me, you're gonna one day understand that it's more about helping people than it's about money. And I used to be like, I realized that to be true, So yeah, man, it's been a blessing, and they were really, really instrumental. Without their support, I wouldn't have got out.
You'd still be in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because when we did our last interview, you weren't telling me you're getting out soon.
No, I wasn't.
It seemed like you were there and you had accepted it, and it is what it is.
And I had. And I had.
What was the biggest adjustment? The majority of your life was spent in a cage, surrounded by criminals, having to watch your back, stabbing people when required, gang politics, having to smuggle things and so forth. And now you're in the free world. You can go to a restaurant if you want. You could have your own place. You have your own bed. You can come and go. You could shower whenever you feel like it. You can take hot showers. You can take a bath. I mean, you probably had you had a bath in 27 years?
No.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What was the biggest, and at this point, were you completely free, or did you still have parole or probation or anything else like that?
I still had parole. I was on parole. And the parole officers were pretty lenient with me. I mean, people kind of found out about my story. It kind of changes how they kind of deal with me. So, me being under CDCR, like many of the parole officer had we heard about you, what you've been doing and all that kind of stuff. So they had already kind of knew who I was and were more along the lines of like, you're not gonna be a problem. You got some stock tips, that sort of thing, you know what I mean? So it was like, and the adjustment piece for me has been really like the autonomy. And people don't really understand what it's like to have real freedom. So like people got a bad habit of always trying to tell me what to do. And they don't get like, just do this and do that. Like, I don't like that sort of stuff. And being a free person, like I've never had the opportunity to not be told what to do. And my family, some of the women I talk to and friends, they don't understand how to honor my liberty and not try to control or be like, hey man, you gotta do it this way, and belittle when I don't do things that they don't like because they don't understand. And so that adjustment has been the roughest because I had a different expectation. I don't know what I expected, but I expected people to understand, though I think I expected people to understand who don't understand the conditions. And so that's been the kind of struggle. In prison, everybody know the conditions. So if you disrespect me, what happens? I can let it go or I can get in your ass. That's it. Out here, people don't understand that. So that's been really kind of adjustment for me to kind of get used to. But it's been great, man. It's been like, I don't know, it's like you free.
At this point, you have a job?
No, I work for myself.
You work for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so...
I had one very briefly when I got out.
I know, there's certain rules about when you get out, halfway house and so forth.
So I didn't go through none of that stuff.
Okay.
So I went through this organization called the Homecoming Project, where they allow you to go home to like a surrogate family. So I already had my connections. So my good friend of mine who works for... Well, he just recently quit, but he was nominated by President Biden to work at the Treasury Department. So when he got Senate confirmation and went to D.C., I moved into his house in Oakland. That's where I paroled to.
Okay.
So I paroled to his house there with him and his wife. So I wouldn't have to go to halfway house, and they had room for me. And like the first week I was there, I set up all my stock stuff, monitors, computers, and I mean, it was like kid in candy store. I'm like, I'm punching holes in the desk backwards way, and and so I did that to start making money for myself, start trading. And the parole were like, yeah, but we want to have a little bit of some job stuff, to sue from trying to try to get me off. So one of the local nonprofits that was there, I was working with them on doing some financial education work for them. They was like, we'll bring you on board so your parole concerns while you do this work. So I did that for a couple months, stopped doing that. I'm officially off parole, though I haven't got my discharge papers yet. My parole officer don't bother me. I don't bother them. You know what I mean? And basically, we launched Feel Inc. Financial empowerment, emotional literacy was the platform that I had inside. And when I got out, my business partners launched Feel Inc., the education company, where we sell customized curriculums to schools and nonprofits and other organizations. Now, on top of doing that, we built the Quick Course. So we built the Wall Street Quick Course, which we currently have available now. It's a 6-module course, about 1 to 4 pages. And it's basically not about get rich quick. It's not about go get rich quick. It's about common sense investing. How you need to understand and your emotions, connections to what you do and your investments. And so that course we recently released, as well as, which down here to come talk to you, but also down here we're looking to meet with some people about the movie stuff. So my life story is being turned into a film. Me and my management team. The other thing I want to say is this, like, my management team that I got right now, my management, if it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have been able or understood how to own a lot of my stuff. Because I didn't know when you're doing certain things about designs and you're doing certain things about transferring logos and just other things in the business that people didn't tell me. Not saying they were trying to trick me, but I know. So my management team has made sure that I completely own and operate my entire stuff. So that in itself has been just like, come home and you own your stuff. You know what I mean? So that's been really, really cool. And so it's really just allowed me to be in a different space as far as how I communicate with people when you have the rights to own your own stuff. So that's been a lot of what we've been doing since I've been on.
And you have a personal stock portfolio as well.
I do. Unlike you, I trade every day. You know, I trade every day, and you know, trading is not just money. Like, I trade it in the prison for free. So I have a joy and passion for business in general. And so if I'm not making money in stocks, I'm talking about stocks and helping people with stocks. And so the benefit that I have to the teaching, I've just incorporated my portfolio into when I teach people, and I'm telling the guy, hey man, this new stock, because I'm actively teaching and educating.
You're basically exposing your portfolio to people who are learning.
So it's really just allowing me to actually, I got to teach a class and I'm researching these companies. I'm just buying the same stocks and I'm researching. So it's really just made it a lot more easier for me with, what I'm doing. I haven't built it to what I'm building, making sure that I'm getting all the things in place, but I'm trying to start a hedge fund. I mean, that's the goal.
Okay.
To start the fund and use long-term like investments, but to get something where it's education-based, not you put your money here and we just go put the money. But it's more of an education style thing.
Well, a year and a half out of prison, can you say how big your personal portfolio is?
I've probably made for everybody, just being out, I've probably been on 16 months, maybe $150,000, $200,000 I probably made.
Okay.
Trading for people in general, and that time being out.
Okay, so that's not your personal. That's
just
okay.
Me trading for people.
That's a very fair number.
Right?
You're not saying 100 million. Like, yeah,
no,
you're not coming up with these crazy.
No.
But stocks are a long.
Yeah, it's
my first year, I probably made a couple of $1,000s on my portfolio, if I made anything. Well, now 15 years later, I mean, I can make, I've had years where I was up $1 million.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, not that I sold, but
but it'd be like that. No,
I'm up $1 million. But this is 15 years in. Right, like I said, I bought Google stocks and it's gone up 14 times. Right. So if you think a $100,000 investment, 15 years ago, that's 1.4 million.
Yeah.
Off just that 100,000.
Yeah. So I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
And so like the other thing is like I, since being out, people are coming to me. It's different when in the pen where I'm under the table. Yeah. Like, I'm not under the table now.
No, you're above ground.
So now the strategies are not like before when I had to try to sneak data. data is in front of me. So my ability to pick stocks, I tell people is this, is like, you ever seen the movie The Beautiful Mind?
Yeah.
And I don't see this, but you remember the scene in the movie where he's standing there at the board and he's looking to do the things and his shit start popping up?
Yeah.
So like, I don't see that stuff, but like, that's how the numbers present to me. So when I was in prison, the numbers presented like that to me, and then I had to go and try to like find the data. I don't have to find the data's in front of me now. So like on a $20,000 on a 20K, right? Just me, my average trading with me seeing this stuff in front of me is like taking stuff from kids. I'm like, this is how easy this shit been this whole time. So like I never had the opportunity to see the numbers in front of me and buy like that. I always did everything from behind. And even when I had the cell phone, I'm trading, somebody coming. So it's still never without anxiety. I'm trading now without anxiety.
Yeah, I feel
Man,
you.
it's a different ballgame. And so like for me, my ability to trade and bring back returns on these smaller portfolios, trying to help people get an understanding to be actively involved, like I am actively involved, has really just kind of changed my trajectory about how to educate people.
Well, look, I mean, when I look at my life, the two best financial decisions I've ever made was launching VladTV and investing in stocks. And before I started investing in stocks, I would always try to flip my money. You know, I've told the story many times. At one point, I tried to buy a brick of cocaine with one of my homies. He ripped me off for the whole $17,000, right? At one point, this guy named John Abbey, who was down with games, Entourage, he was this big real estate investor. I gave him, I forgot how much cash it was, but it was essentially my whole savings for, this multi-unit property thing, because he was already, he had a Bentley and he was rich and we would hang out and he was this big real estate guy. He ended up getting busted for some gang shit and all my money went away. Like, I kept doing that over and over again. I'd build up a certain amount of money, then I'd try to flip it and it would always go to zero. And I remember when I finally was like, okay, I now have a company that's making real money. I'm not going to keep making these mistakes again. I'm going to go and learn, I got a financial advisor, with Merrill Lynch. And I started reading Warren Buffett's book. From there, I learned Benjamin Graham is the guy he learned from. And then, I started reading Charlie Munger's books and the people that he learned from. And I finally got it around my head, like, okay, this is how it's done. It's not that hard.
No, it's not.
It's really not that hard.
No, it's not.
And I know that if the money had just been sitting there in my bank account in cash, not making anything, I would have bought a Rolls Royce. I might have bought a plane at one point, and it would all, and I would still be treading water every month.
With a bunch of stuff.
I'd have a bunch of stuff,
like
but very little money, like most people.
Like most people, right.
These days, and I'm not going to say how much I'm worth, but if I wanted to quit right now, if I said, this is my last VladTV interview, I'm retiring after this, I can maintain my lifestyle for the rest of my life and my family, and I'll be fine. I may not, go to the Gucci store as much as I used to, but I'll still be fine.
Oh, for sure, I'm good.
I'll still be good. I'll live good. I'll eat good. I could travel. I fly first class.
Right.
I could support everybody. I'm good. And that was I almost feel like the stock portfolio is almost more important than the business, because the money grows by itself. It's like I said, I bought Google stock, let's just say at $100, right? And now it's worth, let's just say $1,000. It's more than that, but if it goes up 10%, that's really like doubling my initial investment. Because of compound interest.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that once you have your money making money, you look at money differently.
Yeah.
You're a lot less prone to buy things, especially expensive things, that are unnecessary, because that's going to take away from your money making money.
Yeah, you see it because you see the assets. You're like, I ain't going to be able to have it.
Yeah, I could buy a Rolls Royce. I could pull $350,000 out, but that $350,000 that I pull out in a couple of years might be $1 million. So I think about that, and therefore I don't buy the most expensive car that I could buy. I buy something I like.
Yeah.
You know, and if I buy things, it's things that don't affect my bottom line on any level.
I ain't bought no car now. I don't own a car.
Yeah.
I haven't bought a car. I haven't bought an apartment. I have made no major purchases.
Good.
Not because I can't.
Yeah.
Right? And
because you understand how money works.
And the other thing is this. One thing I've always been really good at doing, and I'm still good at today, is convincing people to put up money. That's all I had to do in the pen. I didn't have nothing. Everything I built was about convincing someone else to do it.
Yeah.
Everything. So, and getting out, it's easy. To convince people to do shit. So, like, that's been a part of showing people how to take this, use this wisely, and these resources then you can use to support your family and other things that you've been trying to do.
Correct. And the thing is that when you look at my viewership, which is primarily, you know, black males, even to this day, most of them don't think that the stock market is where they should put their money.
They think it's fake or rouge. Or
yeah,
good.
They think it's fake. They think it's, you know, and a lot of times the tragedy is they'll get a stock tip from someone that they shouldn't even be talking to. They'll go and put their money in. They'll lose a certain percentage, and they'll think it's all a scam. I'm never doing that
I ain't
again.
gonna do it no more, right?
And most people feel like the key to their wealth is their personal home. I used to think that for a long time. I used to think, put all the money you can into your house. Every home I've ever sold, I've pretty much just broken even on it. Right. And it wasn't until I started like having interviews with like Grant Cardone, who's like a billionaire who owns whatever, 15,000 units. He's like, no, of course not. A personal home is not a great investment. It's a lot of times it's a luxury. It's a good place to live. Right. But if you really want to make money, you got to buy at least 8 units and have those making money and have it managed and then build up from there. Yeah, but most Americans, the majority of their investment of their wealth is in their house.
Yeah.
And when you count, like I bought my house in cash, right? But most people get a mortgage. Over the course of that mortgage, those 20, 30 years, especially with interest rates now, you're going to end up paying 3-4 times the price of the house. Mm-hmm. If you sell the house after 5 years, you'll realize that all you did was pay interest to the bank and you still owe as much as you owed when you bought it. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot of, and then when you look at everyone on the Forbes list, damn near everybody, when you look at their net worth, most of it is in stocks.
All of it
either stocks in their own company or
someone else's.
Or publicly traded company like Warren Buffett.
That's the only way you can get the money.
That's the only way you can get the money.
Can't make it no other way.
And it's all liquid. If I wanted $1 million this afternoon, I could press a button and have $1 million transferred to my bank account.
People don't understand.
Instantly. I don't have to put the house up, look for a buyer, pay real estate fees, 3% here, another 3% for the buying agent, depending on how the market is going. No. If Google stock is worth $100 and I own 1,000, 10,000 shares. Am I doing the math right? 10,000 shares?
You got 10,000.
That's $1 million. I could get that out right now. Boom. No commission. It's all right there. If it's been there for more than a year, it's only 15% on the profit. I remember when I sold my Facebook stock, I think I was down about 150,000 in terms of losses, but those losses I can carry on to my future gains.
That's what I'm saying.
So I'm not even tripping.
You don't lose nothing. That's
not even tripping. So I can cash out at $150,000 profit and pay no taxes.
And pay no tax. That's what I tell people.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, there's so many people in my personal life, like people like Lil Bibby and so forth, that I've just told them my strategy and they went on to make millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I've always pushed this so hard because this really is the best way to do it. But people always want to push, you got people like Jay Morrison who had like the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. Invest, buy black, buy our communities back. Now that fund's going out of business. And everyone who invested, from what I understand, are losing all their money. When I interviewed him, he said, "Are you going to invest?" I said, "No, I'm not going to invest." Said it right there to his face. He said, "Why?" I said, "Because it's not liquid." I said, "If I want to get out, will you buy it back?" "No, you'll have to sell it to friends and family." I'm like, "Nah, this ain't."
It means you can't get out.
Means you can't get out. Right. And all the people that invested all these, from my understanding, is millions of dollars. They're all just left holding the bag. The one piece of property they bought, they're having to sell, and who knows how much they'll get from it.
Can't get nothing back off of it.
Commercial real estate is in bad shape right now.
Well, that's why the idea of active trading is why I push it, because most people will never invest to sit there. People who in the neighborhoods and growing up in marginalized communities are making fast money, but they ain't making that much. But the thought process is fast paced. So they're never gonna read Benjamin Graham and look at that shit and go, they're not. They're not.
Which is too bad.
It's horrible.
It's not that hard to read.
It's horrible they won't do it. So, but what they will do is follow someone else who will. If the gang leader and my big folks say, hey, let's go do this, we all go. So the idea is to get these people to see that active trading is your friend because it's education based. Active trading is about knowing. If you go to work every day for what you're doing and you every day look over, you report, it's just business. It's just understanding. And so my thing is when you're active involved, it gives you more clue to what's going on with your investments.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, I don't trade. I'm a buy and hold guy. That's just me.
But you can do that because you don't have no reason to be a trader.
Right.
There's no reason to trade for you.
And listen, there's lots of ways to success. My way is not the only way.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
But in the hood, it ain't too many options. It's either athletes, the thinking. This not true. Go to jail, play basketball, rap. This the thinking. I'm in East Oakland. You down? So the thinking is this. These dudes don't be thinking about no goddamn stocks or even think so. If I go and I tell them, hey man, you can put your money here, this. Dude, I need to eat today. So can you show me how I can make money right now? Not without taking the kind of risk you're taking right now. But here's the thing. If you trade fast in stocks and lose, you got no prison time.
Yeah.
You got no drama. So the thing
no
is,
one's trying to kill you.
There's nothing. So to not promote this to these dudes is foolish because you have to get them to show them, see this fast-paced stuff, it's also connected to long-term and these strategies. You got to get people in the door. So you can't get them in the door. One thing Pops used to tell me this, if I come in and talk to the class, dude, no, I'm just a rich white dude coming here talking to a bunch of, it adds no credibility to the people who I speak to.
They're going to think that he was born with a silver spoon and it is what it is.
And even if you wasn't, you ain't
you're not going to convince people. And look, I'm not against trading because even though I rarely buy and sell, like I've had years go by where literally I've done nothing. Mm-hmm. Like literally.
A lot of people like that.
Yeah. And when you listen to Warren Buffett, he's literally said, most of my money was spent sitting on my butt.
Yeah.
Doing nothing.
And he made most of his money after he's 50.
And although I don't trade, I rarely buy and sell. I look at my portfolio every day. And that is that over time you start to understand the rhythm of the market. This is why I'm not saying trading is bad or whatever. It's not for me, but once you start looking at your stocks and look at the market every day, you start to understand certain things.
Yes.
You start to understand that when everything is down, your portfolio will almost definitely be down as well. When everything is up, your portfolio will be up. You know, don't start thinking you're a genius because your portfolio is up.
No.
Because the rest of the market is up.
No.
And don't start thinking you're an idiot when your portfolio is down because we're going through a recession or there's a war or whatever else. You start to understand, you start to get a hold of your emotions. You start to say, okay, yes, it's down today because there's also human psychology. You start to understand this. So for example, one of the things I learned early on is if you have $100 and you make $100, the emotional impact of making $100 is the equivalent of losing $10. You're going to be just as upset when you lose $10 as happy if you make $100. Meaning that when you take a loss, you over-exaggerate your emotions. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And you have to get over that. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to look at your portfolio and say, yes, I'm down 20% today, but let me just sit back and let things work their way out because it's not because I picked a bad company. It's because the rest of the world is messed up right now.
Right.
But over time, like in the S&P 500, I forgot what the numbers are, but if you put your money in the S&P 500 at any point in history, and you keep it there for, I think, 3 years, you have always made money.
Yes. Yes.
my number might be a little bit off, but it's something like that.
Yes.
Meaning that if you could wait.
And you know what that is? That's a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee because past performance doesn't.
True, but you just
But
said.
it's pretty likely.
You just said.
If you look at the past, that is a guarantee based on the past.
So this is
But the future could be different. So
right. All we got to go off is the past. You don't know what the future going. You ain't gonna say, oh, if you got past performance show you that this is how we make billions. You ain't gonna say that ain't gonna work in the future and this is what the past done.
It's more likely
that's
than
what
not.
The laydown
more
is.
likely than not. Not a guarantee though.
No, but it's more likely than not.
But more likely than not because crazy shit could happen.
We all know
and
that.
crazy shit will happen.
But you don't invest with the idea of things can happen. You invest with the idea of the knowledge that you have. That's all you have. So these dudes who manage his money says that we invest long term because this amount of money long term for us already being rich is nowhere else to put it.
Yeah.
You can't put it nowhere but here. So it isn't like we somehow have invented something. Where else you gonna put $50 billion but Apple or U.S. Treasuries? You can't buy nothing else but that.
No, right.
So when I say guarantee, it's like if all you can buy is U.S. Treasuries and that's it, and the United States government know that's all you can buy, we know damn near for certain this is what we're going to be able to get because there's no one else liquid enough where you can take this money and get these sort of things.
True. And once you start investing and you start having a certain level of success in it, you start ignoring the other trivial investments that people try to bring your way.
Doesn't matter.
When my friends come to me and say, hey, listen, I got this idea. Can you invest in my company? I always just say no. Because it's like, well, I could take this money and put it in Google and I use YouTube every day. Like the majority of my income from my company comes from YouTube. I've been working with YouTube for 16 years. I use Google search engines. I use Google Maps. I use Google Voice. Like I used to have an Android. I use Amazon every single day.
Right.
I've seen Amazon improve and improve and improve.
Because I use their products.
Because I use their products. You see what I'm saying? And I look at their financials and I see that these are sound companies. So why would I want to start this weed company with you and give you this $20,000, which I'm sure I'll never see again, as opposed to I'll take that $20,000 and put it somewhere where it's safe.
Now it's weird you just say that because I just showed my business. I showed my managers today. So this morning, 20 G's, I made $2,000. Now,
10%.
10%. Now, off $20,000 in 1 month, I can do 10%. Now, people say I can't guarantee that high. I might do 9%. Might do 7. $10,000.
Or you might do negative 10.
No, that's what no. Possible.
You might do negative 10%.
The markets might.
We're not pushing. We're not pushing these guarantees.
No. I didn't say guarantee. No, I didn't say guarantee.
You might that month on paper you might lose 10% or 20%.
If I go buy the stock, and this is what I do. When I bought the stock this morning at $16.58, and the stock jumped to $17.58, and I put my limit order in, that's it. There is my limit orders are in place here.
Meaning that if it goes below that.
Meaning I laid my eyes down and went to sleep, and I woke up and the stock sold itself. I turned back around, bought it again, right? I went back around. I said, look, I'm finna buy another 1,000 shares, this time at $1.16, at $16.16. So the price went from 17 all the way back down to 6. It's all the same day, back down to 16. See, now, I'm not making any predictions. All I'm doing is if the price falls, then I'm down on the trade. To your point.
I get it.
I'm down on the trade.
And I can understand that strategy in terms of safety.
It's working.
But in terms of long-term wealth, not a great strategy. If I sell every time my stock price goes below my purchase price, I would have totally lost out in millions of dollars of potential revenue. Of course,
but you could take the play. You can't tell that to people without no money.
Got it.
Your strategy without people with no money.
I see what you're saying.
There you go. So
you got to build up to where I am.
There we go. Okay. There we go. Now,
but yes, there is a way.
There is risk there
of
to
guaranteeing not losing.
There we go.
By putting a limit.
There we go. There we go. And that's all I'm saying.
Yes. So
that's all I'm saying.
But you will, over time, when it comes to investing in good companies, you'll make a fraction of the money that you could really make by that strategy.
True. That's a fact.
We agree on this.
That's
at
a
least.
fact.
You know
That's
what I'm
a fact.
saying?
That's a
I'm
fact.
not bashing the strategy.
That's a fact.
And I guess someone who
You
doesn't
have
have a
to
lot
go
of money.
long.
Yes, you could basically say, listen, I guarantee if you buy this and I'll put the limit order in at the same time, I'll guarantee you won't lose your initial investment.
Only if, to your point, if we investing right now,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh look, we up already $2,000. I can't guarantee tomorrow. Right now, I say, listen, if I put the limit order in, you just guarantee just $2,000.
A limit order, for those that don't know, means that you set a price, and once it hits that price, it'll automatically sell.
And it can be a limit order. They got stop orders,
Stop limits, yeah.
all kind of different orders.
There's
use.
all types of
Right.
fancy ways.
That
You can buy
use
stock options. You know,
to protect your money without you having to do certain
you could do
things.
stock
and stuff
options. You could buy. You could short stocks where if it
Now-
goes down, you'll make money. There's lots.
Like that. Now, being that is the case,
Yeah.
for a person who don't have as much money, the limit orders and these orders become a strategy for building a portfolio that you can use to protect your money. Now, true, there is no guarantee, to your point, because if you get emotional and say, ooh, I think I can make more money,
Right.
then you won't sell. You won't put the limit orders in place, and therefore you have some risk at stake.
Right. And you also have the problem, I think, like this is one thing that people have a hard time getting their head around is me personally, I never cash out my wins. If my stock has doubled, I say great and go about my day. A lot of people feel like, well, if I put in $100 and it makes $100, I'm going to take $50 out.
No,
I've protected, I've protected half of my initial investment and so forth.
What you doing with the money?
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. They'll go and spend it.
And
now you have $50 less than that investment. So if it doubles and triples or whatever,
don't get none of that.
You've only gotten a percentage.
And that's common,
a percentage
too.
of that. But that's what people do. They try to harvest their wins. I've never done this. If I'm up, great. I can pat myself on the back and go make a sandwich. If I'm down, then I usually buy more. If I invest in if I believe in the company, I could buy it on sale. If I love Coca-Cola and it's 50% off today, I'm going to stock up and buy cases of Coca-Cola. If it goes up, I'm just going to say, okay, I got my cases and I'm good. And that's the thing. It's really the emotion and it's really the mentality and the strategy. If you go in without emotional intelligence, without a strategy, you're almost guaranteed to lose money.
Yes.
And
it's pretty certain. It's pretty certain you will lose.
It's all a scam. And I'm never ever going to do it again.
I ain't never
should
met a
have listened to my
person-
grandmother
That's
and
right.
bought a house.
That's right.
That's what's going to happen. And I remember it happened to me. I remember, my God, when I got out of college, I had a friend that worked for this one company, and he was like, yeah, this is kind of insider trading, but it's past statute of limitations. So I don't care. I'm not going to say who it is. And if I have a question by it, I'll say I made it all up. But he said, yeah, he was he had a high position at this one company. He said, yeah, our earnings are going to be flat this year. You should probably buy the stock short, because I think the stock price is going to go down.
I went shorted.
So I shorted the stock and the price kept going up. And at one point I just bailed out of the investment at a loss. And for years I didn't invest because I'm like, well, I got this stock tip from someone who was on the inside and it didn't come true. So therefore,
it ain't going to work.
It ain't going to work. It's all a scam. Man, if I had bought Apple back then, Google was around. If I had bought Google back then, I think Amazon was around. If I had bought Amazon back then and I really had some education and I really, instead of taking, my thing is don't take stock tips from people. Learn it yourself. Read books. Find out how the masters have done it, the Warren Buffetts of the world. You know what I mean? Find out how they did it. Come up with your own strategies. Come up with your own decisions. Because if you follow someone else to buy, you'll have to keep asking them whether to keep buying or selling or whatever else.
Right.
You're now dependent on someone else's expertise.
Well, the problem is that the Warren Buffetts of the world don't identify with people in the hood. So it's and it's sad because the Warren Buffett stuff is useful for you, but identify with it.
Right.
So
but here's the interesting part, right? I used to think that the Warren Buffetts of the world had insider trading info and they had backdoors and so forth. Then when I read The Snowball, I realized, do you know what company Warren Buffett made his big, a lot of his initial fortune in? Do you remember?
tip of the tongue.
It's a company everybody knows about.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola. Warren Buffett put like $100 million. Hold on, let me look up. Let me see.
How many
Warren
did
Buffett
he get of that? That was a while ago.
Initial Coca-Cola investment. That's when everything. Here we go.
That was a minute.
Here we go.
I forgot how many shares he bought.
Warren Buffett in 1988 invested $1 billion.
That's what it was. $1 billion
in Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Everybody laughed at him. What was this? Hold on. When was New Coke introduced? New Coke introduced. Here we go. New Coke was introduced in 1985. And it put the company in shambles. Everybody hated New Coke. They thought that they had come up with this whole thing, but everybody ended up hating New Coke. They eventually had to bring Coca-Cola back as Coca-Cola Original or Coca-Cola Classic.
The classic.
Yeah, Coca-Cola Classic. But at the time, the stock was in the toilet. Everybody laughed at Warren. Dumbest investment ever. Coke has been around for 100 years by this point. It had already maxed itself out. People were getting more healthy. They weren't drinking soda anymore, whatever. He put $1 billion into Coca-Cola, and he has never sold a single share.
Yeah.
And that company has gone up 61 consecutive years of dividend increases.
And
you know what I'm saying?
Warren know that.
Yeah, for a decade.
And Warren know that.
He knew that.
Yeah, he knew that.
He knew that.
He knew that.
He knew that it's a well-run company. They have dividends.
Yes.
Matter of fact, I think he mentioned in
that.
one of his shareholder meetings that the dividends he's made in Coca-Cola has paid for his initial investment. He's made over $1 billion in dividends.
He knew it was a guaranteed investment. He knew. He done the analytics.
He knew it was a good investment. It wasn't a guaranteed investment.
How many years he been in the company? That ain't no good investment. When you've been sitting there for 30, 40 years, this is why I tell people.
Yeah.
Good is when you make a play, the investment matures. Guaranteed is when you sit there. You've been there. You know the board. You know the company. You know what's going on.
Yeah, I think he was on the board at one point.
Yes. You own the board. You know the investment.
That investment? Hold on a second. I'm about to tell you how much this investment is worth.
I can't remember when he got on.
Listen, that investment is now worth $23 billion.
$23 billion.
And the dividends.
And that's not even his biggest holding. And that's
not
crazy.
Even his biggest holding.
It's not even his biggest holding.
Yeah, that's Apple. I think.
Apple is his biggest holding. Yeah. But still.
The dividends alone. The dividends alone is $736 million. That's without touching the initial investment.
But that's the whole time the dividends they've been paying. Yeah. You done been into this company and paying these dividends alone. And you figure when you a board member, when you been here this long.
No, I was wrong. Hold on. I got to correct myself.
That's a quarter.
Annual dividends
that's
of
$736.
That's a year. $736 million.
A quarter.
He makes
it's a year, actually.
3/4 of his initial investment a year in dividends.
And how they know that? Because Coke says, we're going to initiate our dividend program for the next 5 years, approved for the board, which means we know, unless, actually take that back, because Coke has been around for 1,000 years, which means they've been there through every major crisis, every major crash, and yet they've still paid the dividend.
Exactly. It means that it's a profitable company and they share the profits with their shareholders. That's what a dividend is.
And which means they say, come to Coca-Cola, we guarantee you a profit.
Not guaranteed, but it's likely. And that's the thing. And every single person who is old enough to have been alive at this time, every single person who's watching this right now knew about Coca-Cola.
They do.
Every single person could have started an investment account at their local bank and bought Coca-Cola stock. I can understand if you say, well, Warren invested in some company that he got a tip from that no one's ever heard of, and suddenly it became the next Amazon.
It's Coke, though.
It's Coca-fucking-Cola.
That's how I be thinking.
Everybody drinks it. Everyone knows about it. Everyone could invest in it.
No one would grab it.
They just didn't. And everyone at the time felt the price was too high, and no one put a major bet in it except for Warren Buffett. And look what happened. When I read that, I said, this guy made his money through Coca-Cola?
Yeah. He done the same thing with Apple.
And Apple?
And he didn't even like tech stocks.
Oh, it's not that hard.
No. Yeah.
It's not mystical. It's not all this, it's not some company in China no one's ever heard of. It's not some startup.
It's home-based.
That he got in early on. No, it's not, this wasn't an angel investor or a venture capitalist. Like, yeah, it would have been great to invest in Facebook when they were first a startup, but no one had access to this shit.
No, you couldn't.
Only a couple of institutional investors had access to it. But Coca-Cola, as a public stock in 1988, if you were alive, you could have bought not $1 billion, but you could have put $1,000, $10,000 in it.
Yeah.
And with the dividends, that could be your retirement today.
Yeah.
And that's when everything just made sense to me. I said, it's not thievery. It's not insider trading. It's not some intel that no one knows. It's just he went through the quarterly reports and said, this is a good company to invest in. I don't care if everyone knows about it. And look what's happened. He's never, and he didn't take out his profits. He didn't go and buy a couple of planes.
He ain't got to. He rich.
He rich.
I'm going to leave my money there, and it's paid dividends because now he could take out the profits from the dividends.
Yeah.
Right. Why sell shares when they're paying you $700 million a year?
Yeah.
Once again. So, right? When you are rich, so Warren and them can push dollar cost average because dollar cost averaging works handsomely. But it works handsomely when you can buy Apple stock. He ain't buying one share. He going in spending $30 billion. Of course you're going to sit for 20 years and you spending $30 billion.
$1 billion.
No, I'm talking about for the Apple play.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
So I'm just saying an example. You spending $30 billion, but it's like $300-some billion he done made off the Apple stock. His Apple holdings.
I wish I'd bought Apple stock earlier.
Man, his Apple holdings
that's what
is crazy now.
Yeah.
It's like 300-some billion, it's like 400-some billion just
it's
the Apple
insane.
holdings.
And who hasn't heard of Apple?
Right.
These are not these esoteric, unknown inside plays.
Citigroup, Wells Fargo, like all the majors. So, to the point
Chase Manhattan,
Chase,
Visa and MasterCard. I mean, most of his investments are companies everyone's always heard of because he's at the point where he can't, at his scale, he can't invest in small companies anymore.
Oh, and
he just buys.
Well,
companies.
yeah, he can't even really sell the investments like that. So, like when you, and I tell people that when we talk about the trading, when you were in companies and people own these major shares like that, they can't execute the selling of stocks like that. So essentially, they're stuck. Warren can't go. I mean, he can, but you go sell 50 million. You go sell 50 billion shares, dude. 50 million shares. You bound to push the price. Yeah, you know that.
Yeah, the whole.
Yeah. So he knows
the whole stock will
for
go
sure.
down.
So like he knows, and he ain't the only one. Third Street or any of these other major.
No, he can't even buy at the scale that he wants to.
No.
He has to break up his investments,
Miami
not
pieces,
to alert,
right.
like set off red flags.
And so it might take him 90 days to offload the holdings?
Exactly.
So, you couldn't move in and out of the damn thing if you wanted to, which makes a person like myself easy to move in and out and take advantage of because you can't and you don't want to.
Yes.
So, it's like,
Well, Curtis Wall Street Carroll, man, last time we talked, you were in a jail cell over the phone, and now you're free in the world.
I know, man.
I'm happy that you're healthy. You made it through a hideous experience, but you're intact. You learned from your mistakes. You accepted the role that you played. At no point did you say that you were a victim or it wasn't fair what happened to you. You knew what you did when you did it. You made the choice not to cooperate. You stand behind that decision. You did the time that they gave you. You made moves and got to know people and form relationships while you were in there, which helped you get out earlier than you were supposed to. You know what I'm saying? By using the legal method, not using a back door or bribing somebody or whatever else. And now you're free. You still have a lot of years left in your life. You're still pursuing the same thing that we talked about. And you're pushing something that I personally believe in, which is why when I heard you're out and it's time to do an interview, I said, absolutely. Let's bring him in. Let's do it in person.
Appreciate that.
Let's make sure he's in LA And man, congratulations on what you've done, and just keep pushing forward, man.
Appreciate that, man. Now I really appreciate that. You've interviewed a lot of people. You know what I mean? And even though our interview didn't go because of the audio and stuff was bad, you still was like, hey, you got that piece of sway, man. I still think your story is powerful. Let me help promote it. You know what I mean? You didn't have to do that. You could have been like, hey, whatever. So I always appreciated that. My management team was like, man, we gonna reach out to Vlad. You know what I'm saying? Y'all got back super quick, like, man, we with it. So I really appreciate it, man. And I appreciate all the people who have tuned in to watch my story through the years. I don't know, I think it was something like 2 million, over 2 million views or something.
I actually did put out the interview that we did.
You did?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
didn't get the huge views that the.
Well, you barely couldn't even hear it, I imagine. It was
all right, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, we put it out in July 4th, 2019. We put out the full interview.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, no, it's been out. It just didn't do the massive numbers
Right.
Actually, a phone interview is harder.
Right.
Harder to get accepted
right.
than an actual visual piece. And Sway and you being in a prison, in a jail, actually talking face to face was just a lot more impactful. And, but at the end of the day, we still did the interview. I already knew the story. And I think it was important to actually do it in person and actually see you on film, because all we had was just a screen cap of you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So congrats on what you've done, man. And just keep pushing forward, man.
Thanks,
and,
man. Appreciate that.
Keep educating people out there and keep letting people know that, like I said, I feel like my audience, there's always just this pushback when it comes to this. It's always like, nah, fuck these stocks, real estate. They're not making any more land. This is what my family pushed. And my family pushed real estate on me as well. So I understand, or Bitcoin, crypto.
Yeah.
And if you want to, like I said, I don't own any crypto.
Neither do I.
Because the way I look at it is I look at crypto the same way as I look at gold. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't create profits. There's no assets, implicit. It's just sitting there, and you're hoping that someone will pay more for it tomorrow than you paid for it today, just like gold.
Yeah.
And tomorrow someone might pay more for gold, but it's different than having a piece of Amazon that's generating billions of dollars every day. It's a different class of investment. The stock market has traditionally always outpaced the real estate market.
Yeah.
And it's more liquid. And it's, like I said, with real estate, just like gold or crypto, it sits there and you're hoping that tomorrow, if you choose to sell it, they feel that it's worth more than it is today.
Right.
But it's not generating money. Unless you own a farm or you have, multi-unit properties, it's not generating anything.
Right.
It's a cool place to live. I bought a multi-million-dollar home, not because it was a good investment, but because I wanted to live there.
Right.
And I had the money, and I wanted to put my family in it, and that's that. It wasn't, when I sell this home, I don't expect to make a big profit. And if I do, great. But I'm not expecting it.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, when they buy their home, they think that they're going to make a big profit because they're only putting 10% down. And they're like, well, if I make 100, if I put down 10,000 and it goes up 100,000, I have 10 times my money.
When, all that other
They're
stuff.
not counting the property taxes, the interest on their mortgage, all the upkeep that's required. You know what I'm saying? We had a air conditioner break, about a year ago. That shit cost like $10,000.
Right.
Like, we're going to need, there's a leak in the roof. That's going to cost another $5,000. Like when people say, oh, why throw money away from rent when you could buy? Man, I rented for 10 years straight and have absolutely no regrets. It did not make sense to buy at the time.
Have to spend, right.
And let me tell you, when I look at my rent versus if I had a mortgage, it was actually cheaper to rent.
It is.
Most times.
It is.
Especially now.
It is.
So that's what it is. Well, Curtis,
and
man,
we got a thing right here,
nothing beats the stocks.
Nothing beats the stocks.
I
So
agree.
you already know, man. There's
I
nothing beats
agree.
the stocks. Is how we did this. This my new our new design, our new clothes. Nothing beats the stocks. We got a bunch of other stuff, and so this is what we pushing.
Yeah, man. That's what it is. Until next time.
Appreciate it.
Peace.
Thanks, man.